You're listening to Backlog Banter with your host, Serial K86.
Hello, greetings, and ni hao everyone to another episode of Backlog Banter. I am your host, Serial K, and with me for this episode is two guests, as always. The first one is my unofficial co-host, Ethan, aka Gumshoe Gamer.
Hello, it's me. It is I. I'm here.
Yes, occasional Twitch streamer and PNG tuber, I guess.
Oh yeah, that's kind of important now, I guess too.
Yeah,
but also another person here.
Yep.
Hi.
Right.
Yep. Welcome. Yeah. Yeah, we have DarkSparkish joining us again. This time on time.
Woo!
Yeah.
Welcome back, buddy.
Yeah, thank you very much. And yes, my name is Dark, and I am here again. That's what I can say.
Yeah. Last time you joined us a little late. But,
yeah, I know.
Yeah. No biggie.
Yeah, I know. But I at least have a better microphone with me this time.
Yes, I can tell from the sound quality on your end. So this is episode 11, which happens to be the first episode of this year, 2022. So how was 2022 with you so far? Let's start with you, Gumshoe.
Well, mostly pretty good, but that's mainly because I've gone full force into streaming mode in this beginning, which that's been fun. But just generally, I'd say this year's going on a better start. I like to be optimistic about the year, you know. But I like to say that so far it's been better than the previous years.
We're only been in 2 months so far, so, but we'll.
Yeah, but you know, given how last couple of years have been, to go into this long and not have anything that's just super draining is nice.
Yeah. To me, when it comes to how awful the years have been so far, nothing will ever gonna top 2020.
Word.
Yeah. What about you, Dark? How's the year been treating you so far?
I mean, I can't complain much. At least the restrictions in my country have gotten a little less strict. So there's that at least.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good news. I think I've heard you mention that on Twitter once.
Yeah, perhaps, but it's been kind of reduced now that Omicron's. Can I even say that on YouTube? I mean, who cares? You're not monetizing it, right?
I'm not.
But anyways,
I'm barely. Yeah, whatever. As long as
but
as long as you're not saying any racial slurs or whatever, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Definitely not gonna say that monetized or not. But anyways,
it's fine. If it gets flagged, we can just cut it out.
Yeah. Anyways, hey, the restrictions are getting less strict now. That's what I can say.
I want to say that's almost the opposite of where I am. I've heard they've been planning to bring back some of them, but nothing super strict, you know. Since
Just as long as it's not like last year for my country, which was very highly locked down. I can't complain much, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, hey, at least you have a optimistic year, you know. That's what I say.
Yeah. We started decent so far. To me, aside from my life has been, you know, all right. Just one horrible thing I would say it happened to me. I unfortunately caught COVID. And
Right. I believe. Oh yeah, I remember
Yeah.
you saying something about that.
Yeah, you tweeted about it.
Yeah, I've been mostly locking myself in my room. I was coughing and feeling horrible. And I've been trying to live my life as normal as I could. I remember that one time I was playing the game I'm gonna be talking about for this episode, while I was struggling with fever. You know, the fever was. I took some medicine. I felt a little better, so I started playing this game. And after I'm finished my session, I started feeling like awful again. I was having
You sure it wasn't the game's fault?
ha ha. No, if it was the game's fault, I would have been felt horrible while I was playing it. It happened before
True,
and after.
true.
Yeah. Yeah, but thank goodness it went well for them for the rest of the week. I was locking myself for a week, and then I took another test, and it came out negative, and yeah, I am officially a COVID survivor, and thank goodness I survived thanks to modern medicine.
Yeah, that's
Yay.
good news.
So yeah.
What's that? We're getting canceled?
Uh-oh.
Uh,
So yeah, this I don't want to sound political, but if you're listening, please get vaccinated. It won't gonna prevent you from getting COVID, but the least it could do, it reduce its effects. It's gonna give your immune system.
No, you can never say anything 100% in terms of science. That's just not.
I 100% disagree. You don't need
Say
to
it's
take the vaccine.
99%.
The vaccine turns everyone gay.
Man,
okay.
you do that like scarily good, like suspiciously good.
Well, I remember that one time.
Anyway,
I remember that one time, Dark, you posted a picture of a sticker on the street that has Infowars on it. You sure you're not? You sure you're not working for them?
hey, I mean,
What
if
do
they
you
pay
know
good.
about me? I am not working for Infowars. It's bullshit.
well, anyways,
Okay, calm
enough
down.
about the Infowar jokes.
Let's move on. That didn't went as I expected. Anyway, so before we talk about our picks for this year, for this episode, the games we played, because this is a video game podcast after all.
Oh right, yeah, games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got two pieces of news I'd like to discuss with you guys. The first one is it's a week old at this point, but I felt like I want to talk about it with you guys. And that is the Nintendo Direct that happens earlier this month, or to be specific, last week, more than last week actually, in which for 40 minutes Nintendo showcased a few games that are coming during the first half of this year. And they showed off some of them were expected, but some of them came out of nowhere. I'm gonna start with I'm gonna leave my thoughts for last. I'm not gonna mention every game that was shown off. If you haven't,
If you want to know every single game, there's
yeah.
there was a lot of ports, which is what we kind of thought. We were expecting a lot more of that. I mean, I will say in terms of the ports, I was very surprised to see the Force Unleashed there and it not be the HD version, be the Wii version.
Yeah, that was honestly interesting.
I was like oh, it reminded me that exists, that like that version exists, and I'm like, oh right. And I never played that one, so you know that was kind of nice. That was a nice surprise, but yeah.
I actually did play the PlayStation 2 version of the game, which I believe is based on the.
Oh
Wii
yeah, no, it is.
version.
And, oh right, I think it is the same. It is the same, just without the motion controls.
Yeah, it was.
Oh no, wait,
developed by
I think they
Chrome.
added that in, right? Because the PlayStation has that move, right, or whatever it was.
I know.
Two?
No.
No, it didn't
Oh, I'm
have.
thinking
the,
of 3.
Yeah, you think I have.
there was the
Okay.
eye toy, but there was never the move.
Okay, I was thinking. Okay, I don't know why I thought that was a PlayStation 2 thing.
Yeah.
It's a
yeah.
PS3 thing at the earliest.
So, but Wii just has. It's just the PlayStation 2 version with that. Apparently, there's also a PSP version of Force Unleashed that also has different levels and everything. But there's
Yeah.
3 versions of this dang game.
Yeah, it was. They were all developed by Chrome, who are most known for developing the Tide Tasmanian Tiger games, Hello Nitro Rad, and also the Legend of Spyro games, or more precisely, the first and second one, not the third one. It was developed by a different company.
Oh. So they also they also it was like Gumshoes. There was mostly ports and remakes, but they also showed some new IPs. Like this next IP, I never played any single entry in it, but I was surprised when I saw it, and that is a new Mario Strikers game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't know what to think about that. Honestly, I'm very mixed.
I mean, I remember back then seeing the box art to some of these games and thinking, wow, this is just awesome, the most awesome thing ever. And when I look at the screenshots, it just didn't look as awesome. But I'm at least happy that they're kind of implementing some of that awesome box art vibes with these super moves. So it's kind of awesome to actually implement that.
Yeah, yeah.
I played one of the Strikers games. I don't remember which one. It was back during that time when you could rent video games from Blockbuster. And you remember that? Remember Blockbuster? What was the thing? I used to do that. I remember renting one of the Mario Strikers games and playing that for a bit. And I just didn't understand how to actually play the game, but I remember having fun with it. But yeah, I don't have a lot of experience with the Mario Sports games. So
the only experience I have with any Mario Sports game would be one of the Mario Tennis games on the Game Boy Advance. And I think it had a story mode which really didn't center much around Mario until like at the end. But I mean, hey, it was neat. The graphics looked good and it played well enough.
Yeah. Also, another sports IP that Nintendo decided to bring back is the sports series. Remember the Wii?
The Wii Sports series. Only that they're rebranding as Nintendo Switch Sports because obviously calling it Wii Sports wouldn't make sense on a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, exactly. That also came out of nowhere. I never played the first one on the Wii, but I did play plenty of times. What is it called? The
Wii Sports Resort?
Yes, I played that with my nephews and nieces for many hours. Our favorite.
That's the best Wii Sports by far.
Yes.
Wii Sports Resort is it's so good. I understand everyone's nostalgic for the original Wii Sports, but no, Resort, guys, seriously, Resort is so good. It is super good.
Yeah.
Wii Sport is like a demo. And then Wii Sport Resort is like the product that refines on that demo and makes it a standalone game.
I will say, I do think Wii Sports definitely helped sell the console though, because it was something that came with it and was very easy to show off. Like, oh, here's how the Wii do stuff with the Wii. Like, oh, it was great.
Yes. Yes.
But to go back to this new sports, I am not excited for it whatsoever. I'm gonna be real, because like the amount of mini games that are there is staggeringly small, especially when you consider that they have 3 versions of tennis. But what I mean by that is that the controls are just the same. Tennis, badminton, and volleyball, you're doing the same motion.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean,
so it's kind of like, okay, so half of these rosters are basically functionally the same. The other half look at like something that like, okay, I'll definitely probably play that. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like given that they're releasing the golf one later, if they eventually add more content as like free updates, which Nintendo seems to be doing a lot now, then I think it will start to be worth that like full price. But I don't know. At this point, I don't really see that much of a reason to get it like day one.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. I mean, I will add that Wii Sport Resort did have table tennis, which was sort of similar to tennis
fun.
too. But I definitely get your point, and I'm not really stoked about with Nintendo Switch Sports.
Yeah, we'll wait until it.
They gave the meat limbs, and once they did that, I'm like, okay, it's no longer cute.
Yeah.
Just...
So what else was there? So Gumshoe, you're a huge RPG guy. Is there any JRPG announcements that caught your interest?
A few actually. There was a few JRPG announcements. I guess I'll just take the obvious port one out of the way, since Chrono Cross, which there was like rumors about that getting a remake or something happening with that. So glad to see that those rumors were true. I have not played Chrono Cross, but I played a ton of Chrono Trigger, so I'll probably get it just because I've never. It's because I've heard that Chrono Cross is a really good game, not up there with Chrono Trigger, but in terms of like just being a dang good RPG, it's one of those. Triangle strategy, which I'm not gonna lie, doesn't really interest me that much. I know I'm in the minority, but hey, if you like strategy RPGs, then that might be on one you might want to look out for. Then the two really big ones was Live Alive, which was a Japan-only game for a long time.
I've heard of it.
And now that's coming to the West and, well, technically everything, because it's going to be a full-on remake with a style. Oh yeah, the Live Alive style too is also just like very Octopath inspired, which is very interesting to see how Octopath has changed the game in a way for these. It's like, okay, cool to see, I guess. And then there's Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which I did not think was gonna happen this soon, especially since they've announced that not only does it exist, but it's coming out this year. And I'm like, oh god, I'm scrambling now to be prepared for that. But I'm looking forward to that. I would say I think out of everything that was shown in the direct, I'm looking forward to Kirby, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and Splatoon 3 in that order. Those were like my top three.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. What about you, Dar? Okay. Actually, let's hear from Dark. We haven't heard a lot from you. Any game that interests you?
Well, to be honest, the direct was just a direct, really. There wasn't really that much that interested me. I mean, I guess the Xenoblade 3 could probably interest me, and I did think it was pretty interesting to see Klonoa return for once, because
yes, that was
dormant the character.
Yeah, there were rumors about it, about the IP getting renewed by Namco, and so people were speculating, are they gonna make a remaster or something like that? And yeah, that's exactly what happened.
I mean, that is pretty surprising, because there could be a scenario where they just renew the license just for the sake of it, but hey, they're actually doing something with it.
Yes. I've never personally, I've never played a Klonoa game before. I've only played a little bit of the Wii remake at a friend's house many years ago, and I liked what I played, but that's about it. But I am definitely looking forward to getting the what is it called? Fantasy Reverie?
It's called the Klonoa Reverie series.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that is the name of it.
Yep, Fantasy Reverie series.
Yes, that's it.
I might have mispronounced the second word, but whatever.
I think it's just the Klonoa Reverie series. That's all.
Yeah. No.
It doesn't have the word fantasy in it with the P.
Oh.
Fantasy.
Oh yeah, it is. Oh no, it is Fantasy Reverie. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm looking at the thing that they released right now. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's coming this summer on the Nintendo Switch, PS4, I think PS5, Xbox, and Steam, PC on Steam. Yes. So let's hope it sells well this time, because if I'm not mistaken,
I am actually pretty interested in it, just because I've heard about Klonoa for a while now, but I've never been able to actually play it, mainly because the game, if I want to actually own a physical version of the games, no.
Well, I do own physical copies of the main two games, mainly the PS1 and PS2 game. and I'm pretty happy about it.
Yeah, I believe the PS2 one, Lunatea's Veil, is pretty rare and expensive if you're looking for
Oh,
a
it is
copy.
It is like insanely rare.
Yeah.
And never left the PS2.
Yes.
At least the
I
first game got a remake, which I have
Yeah.
heard mixed things about. Some people like the Wii version, some people don't like the Wii version.
Yes.
Uh,
The Wii remake is also pretty expensive. It's like $80 on eBay.
Mm,
Yeah, and that's relatively a good chunk of change, especially
Yeah.
like nowadays. Like, dang.
It honestly makes me happy that I got these games for a pretty fair price. The first game I got for maybe about $50-ish from a guy on a Facebook group, and the second game I only got for €10 in Spain back in 2013.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I was
That's pretty
pretty
good.
lucky.
That was insanely lucky. Good job on you, honestly.
Thanks.
yeah, you always buy used games from Spain, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, mainly for PS2, and mainly if I find something interesting, which is kind of there hasn't been much interesting, but I mean, it's impressive that they still the big game retailer in Spain, which is called Game, which is also in Europe and even used to be in Scandinavia, but shut down in 2015. But yeah, they still sell PS2 games there in Spain, at least as of 2021, which is insane.
Ah, cool if you're a retro gamer who's into PS2s, especially. Yeah. So between there's also another game. Okay, we already know it's coming, but they showed us something new from it. And that is Kirby in the Forgotten Lands, in which they showed us the new mouthful mode, in which Kirby half swallows an inanimate object or a machine, and just instead of transforming or something, he just becomes one with the machine and start using it while he's stretched
He literally
all over it.
becomes the marble.
Yes. Whether
I'm
it's
pretty sure
whether it's
I
a
think it's
answer-
a very, very good way of expanding Kirby's moveset without it just being literally the same thing. Because that's kind of what I've noticed with Planet Robobot kind of tried to do, was have like sections where you aren't just using copies, or where like you have your copy ability, but like the way you obtain it is very different. And
Yeah.
now with this one, they're like, yeah, sure, we have our standard copy abilities, but also those copy abilities can be upgraded, which is like, okay, that's cool. That's definitely new. And then this mouthful mode, which is just honestly awesome to see. It's really feels like they are doing so much with Kirby for this game, and that's great. That's honestly really great. That's really why I'm super excited for Kirby.
Oh, I'm absolutely
Yeah.
excited for this game as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a nice way of mixing up things, because I think probably the most interesting thing they did with the sucking was just a different way of sucking, which comes off a little wrong. Like, oh wow, a more powerful it's like a more powerful version of the normal suck Kirby already does. But the mouthful thing, I've seen people meme about it a lot, certainly.
Yeah. And it's coming in late March. I've been playing now some of the previous Kirby games in preparation. I played the original Dreamland, the original Game Boy one, and I'm currently playing for the third time in my life Kirby 64, which is one of my favorites, despite some of its flaws.
Oh, I think it's
that's
the best out of that Dark Matter trilogy
Yeah.
for sure.
The Dark Matter trilogy, yes.
Definitely the best one out of that.
Yes.
That's one Kirby game I need to play one day.
64, yeah. No, 64 is one I recommend to like everybody, especially if you have not played a Kirby game. I feel like you can play 64. It's not hard, it's fun,
Yes.
and it's good length too.
Yes.
It's not because like I would also say Kirby's Adventure for the NES, or if you want to do the GBA remake, but that game
Yeah.
can be kind of short. which maybe is good for some people, but if you want something that's a little bit more, I'd say, charming than 64.
Huh.
All the
I
way.
remember playing Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland when I was younger on my GBA. I still have the game though, by the way. It's definitely the way to play Kirby's Adventure, in my opinion. Just like with Metroid Zero Mission, how Metroid Zero Mission is the way to experience the original Metroid, for instance.
Yeah, I played the original
Yeah.
the original NES Adventure and Nightmare in Dreamland, and yeah, I agree. Nightmare in Dreamland is the superior version of that game. If I'm not mistaken,
There are some Kirby purists who would disagree, but I don't listen to them, so sorry.
yeah. Anyway, so between Kirby, Klonoa, Cow the Kangaroo, I think that's his name.
Yeah, it's Cow the Kangaroo.
Yeah,
Oh.
this year is gonna be a great year for fans of Scrimblows.
Scrimblow Bimblows.
Yeah. Yeah, this just like with 2017. Yeah, I'm looking forward to these games, and there's also a game that I might pick up. It's not it's like it came out 2019 or 2020. But I plan on getting it. I played its demo recently. That is called what is it called? New Super Lucky's Tale.
Oh yeah, the
Oh, that.
Microsoft's thing. Yeah.
Yeah, the first one, Lucky's Tale, was an Xbox. What's it called again? Move?
Xbox One.
Well, it's Xbox now because
Kinect.
it
It was a Kinect game.
What? I don't remember it being a
No,
Kinect
wait.
game.
No, the original. I think the original was a Kinect game.
Super Lucky's Tale.
No, Lucky's Tale. Super Lucky's Tale.
Oh.
Yeah, Super Lucky's Tale was a traditional.
It was originally a platform game for the Oculus Rift, from what I can look up.
Lucky's Tale.
Okay, it was the
Yeah,
Oculus.
Yeah.
Not a Kinect. Lucky's Tale.
and then-
Oculus.
Oh
Game
yes,
TV.
yes.
And-
Lucky's
and
Tale
then-
was a
yeah.
thing for the Rift.
And then it got Super Lucky's Tale, which came out on the Xbox.
And then there's new Super Lucky's Tale, which you might think is like an updated version of Super Lucky's Tale, but no, it's a new game.
Really?
That's honestly interesting. Though, I mean, yeah, though.
At least
the same
from what-
time-
Yeah.
Yeah, though at the same time, the new Super Mario Brothers games exist, but I digress.
Oh wait, no,
It's
right,
kinda
sorry. No,
confusing.
I am confused. I was confusing with something else. It is actually an updated version.
Okay,
Okay.
that makes sense.
Okay, I was gonna say, wait a second. I think yeah, no, I was confusing with something else.
Almost sounds like you were thinking about new Super Mario Brothers, almost.
You know what? I think that's what it was. No, that's definitely what it was.
So yeah, this year I'm planning on playing plenty of Scrimblow games, old and new, for the rest of 2022. Maybe
The funny thing is about new Super Lucky's Tale though is that both that and original Super Lucky's Tale are games you can get separately on Xbox. So,
really weird. Weird. Okay.
Let's see. All right.
and
Let's
they had
see.
both of them on Game Pass for a time. I played a little bit of new Super Lucky's Tale, but not enough to be like actually get into the game. I just kind of played it a bit and then I never picked it up again. So
All right. So let's see which Scrimble Bimbles I'll be playing this year. And let's see. We got Bamblo Scrimbimble, and then we got new Super Scrimblow Brothers. Scrimblow Laylee. There's a lot of Scrimblows.
Yeah. So
anyway, we've been talking about like
the direct, but
Nintendo the Direct.
no, we're gonna
And that's all.
no.
And like,
Yeah, we're gonna talk.
I was gonna say.
You gotta cover one last game.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay, one last game for the direct, and that is that's been that they announced, and it's Super Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is getting new racing tracks.
Oh boy, I can't wait to play it when I'm 100 years old.
Yeah, they'll be released.
So I'm playing Mario Kart 8.
Yeah, they'll be released throughout starting this year until late 2023. I think they're gonna release 8 tracks soon, and they're from all of them are from previous Mario games, including the mobile exclusive Mario Kart Tour, which was surprising. So yeah, I'm surprised they didn't save that for a Mario Kart 9. But considering it's the highest selling game on the Nintendo Switch, it kind of makes sense. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the reason. That is 100% the reason. Mario Kart 8 still sells at full price. In fact, even more than full price, full retail price now, because it still has a huge player base. So, in a financial decision, a business decision, it is better to just say, hey, we're gonna offer basically the amount of courses that is in the full list is a lot. Granted, it is $25 for the DLC, but the amount of courses that you get through it all is enough for a full Mario Kart.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like a whole new game.
It really is. It is a proper expansion. I will say it is I think it's earned that, but then again, it's kind of hard to say that with certainty because we don't know what all the courses are. So, I mean, if you want to wait until they're all there, then like go ahead. The entire person just wants to wait, and like that's totally fine.
Yeah, it's also available for free if you bought the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. But unfortunately, once the subscription ends, you lose access to it. So
buy everywhere.
Yeah, buy it separately. I'd say that.
Yeah, well, my take on this is that, yeah, I can definitely understand why they're doing it, but I just hope that they, at the very least, don't pull a GTA Online and only pretty much make new content for Mario Kart 8 instead of just making a 9th Mario Kart game or even a new F-Zero game. Please, Nintendo, stop making Mario Kart and just make a new F-Zero, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no. I think they're saving the next Mario Kart for their next system. We're obviously not gonna see a Mario Kart 9 anytime soon.
Probably gonna want like a Mario Kart per Nintendo system now, and just have it just like that's just the Mario Kart there.
Yes. Yes.
I thought that's what I honestly thought that's what was gonna happen with Super Mario Party. I was like, oh no, is this our only Mario Party we're gonna get? Well, thankfully they released Mario Party Super. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Super Mario Party and then Mario Party Superstars. At least Mario Party Superstars is actually a good game and fun.
Well, with Mario Party, there has been at least more than one Mario Party game on each console. The Nintendo 64 had 3 Mario Parties. The GameCube had
4.
4,
It had 4, 5, 6, and 7. So it had 4.
Yeah, and the 8 had 2. So it's not a Mario Kart situation where it's one game per console for the Mario Party series.
Except for the Wii U. The Wii U only had 10.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, except
but it was the Wii U,
but,
so.
Yeah. But anyways, that's otherwise the same doesn't apply for Mario Party.
Yeah. I hope that Mario Party Superstars does get like at least a board, just one more board. I think would have made the game feel a little bit more complete. But it's neither here nor there.
You never know. Super Mario Party didn't originally have, I think, an online mode, and then they later added it in an update a year or 2 later, out of nowhere. So you never know. So I guess that's our thoughts on the Nintendo Direct. We have plenty to talk about.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. It was a pretty good showing, and I look forward to what they got for the second half of the Nintendo Switch life cycle. Because if this is only the first half, wow, the Switch is stacked with games for just the first half of this year. Imagine what it's like for the second half. So yeah, we're probably gonna see another direct. I think for E3. I think maybe we're probably gonna see an dedicated directs for certain games like maybe Kirby because it's his 30th anniversary this year, and maybe Splatoon 3 before it comes out. But yeah, if we're gonna talk about 40-minute long directs about multiple games, we're probably not gonna see another one until A3, most likely. So that's our thoughts on the Nintendo Direct. Let's move on to another piece of news. This one is a little recent, and we're probably not gonna waste a lot of time on it. And that is Nintendo announcing that they're shutting down the servers for both the eShop, the Wii U, and 3DS eShop, with the possibility of cutting the ability to buy games, to fill your account wallet around maybe this summer, August or something like that.
It was May. May is the cutoff. It was either May is the cutoff to add new like credit cards and like info for stuff to actually buy anything. So yeah. PSA, everyone, if there's a lot of digital only 3DS and Wii U games that are just going to be lost to the ether until they get re-released, but even then that is a very, very slim chance.
I believe most of them was on the 3DS.
Yeah, the majority of stuff that are probably going to be lost are on the 3DS, for sure. But like, it's crazy to me that there will no longer be a way outside of the iOS versions, literally phone versions, to get to play Ace Attorney 5 and 6, because those never got physical releases outside of Japan. So if you want to play them in America or Europe, you have to get them digitally, which means that and you have to have a 3DS too and get them digitally on that store. So oops, guess you gotta now get an iPhone and play it on that.
They might remaster it, you never know, because they released the
I hope so.
They released the Great Ace Attorney series not long ago, and that I believe no one expected that they gotta get released. So you never know.
That also. I just never left Japan. The first and second games just never left Japan. The first game at least got like a fan translation, but not the second game.
Yes. But and Capcom has pretty much a mostly solid track when it comes to releasing old games, because they did this with most of the Mega Man games. They've had to release a Legends collection. I
don't know if we're gonna see that.
They didn't release the Legends collection, but they did release most recent Mega Man collection they did was of the Mega Man 0 and CX games, though.
Yes.
That is a good collection. I'm gonna say right now that's a really, really good collection. Though I do recommend getting it on PC, because then you can actually mod it so the soundtrack isn't compressed.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like the only problem I have with that collection is just that the OST for the Zero games are pretty compressed.
Yeah, the Zero games, it's just a GBA sound chip thing. It just could have sounded better, but anyways, we're not talking about just these games.
Right, sorry.
Yeah.
But, what we're talking about here is just that it brings up an important thing about game preservation.
Exactly.
Especially when there's a lot of games that if you want to get physically for the system, you're gonna be paying quite a bit of money. I'm just like, yeah, there are some expensive 3DS games out there now.
Yeah,
and it's not. And 3DS isn't even that old. That's like the thing. It's not that old. It's old enough to be like, okay, it's a little. I'm not gonna say like outdated, but it's
11 years
older.
Yes, it's only 11 years old, but
in terms-
still.
It makes me feel old.
Yeah, but this ain't like the GBA. You know, it's a little bit better than that, and it's like there are still some very, very expensive games. Like, if you want to get the complete version of Fire Emblem Face, you are like physical, you are going to pay like $200 for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not the
You
first
will.
time I've seen Fire Emblem cost a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just stuff like that. Oh, if you're an SMT fan, Shin Megami Tensei fan like me, holy crap. Yeah, we've always known that those physical versions are just expensive. And they're only going to go up in price now. So luckily you can get them for pretty cheap ish on the 3DS eShop. So
Yeah. Well, to be honest,
Yeah.
any Atlas game is pretty much going up in price physically, so I think it's a good idea to maybe get yourself higher capacity micro SD or SD card depending on the 3DS model, and just start downloading those games until your wallets are empty and that you can't pay your taxes.
That's
Yep.
that if you want to go the legal route.
Yeah, of course, but yeah, I mean, although you definitely get to pay
This
your
is
taxes
kind of
with the
why
illegal route.
re-releases are. This is why
It's not
like
something we'll
re-releases and ports are
endorse.
important.
Sorry.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry for talking over, by the way.
No,
That's fine.
it's okay. So yeah, this is absolutely absolutely terrible decision, and I think we're
Yeah.
gonna all agree on that. We've give examples of why it's that. Personally, what ticks me off about it is the fact that we won't have to be able to legally play any virtual console games anymore.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Especially-
that definitely sucks.
Yeah, especially on the Wii U, because the Wii U is so far is the only system where you can legally play GBA and DS games on a big screen.
Exactly. And plus,
Without-
there is also a special version of Super Mario Brothers or Super Mario Advance 4 Super Mario Brothers 3 that includes all of the e-reader content, which and once it disappears, well, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
can't
already
access
lost
it
a
anymore.
good. Like, it just reminds me of the time when like we lost the Wii shop, which, you know, say what you will, that shop was like, God, that shop freaking sucked. That was terrible UI. I hated trying to buy things on the freaking Wii shop thing, but
Yeah, I
there
did.
were a lot of games that were only available for there that are probably never going to see a light of day. One of those being Castlevania: The Adventure Rebirth. Which
Don't
is actually a
remind me of
very-
it. One more
Oh, yeah,
by the
that's,
fact that I can't buy the game anymore.
Boom. Can't buy that game anymore. It's
Ah.
essentially lost media, honestly. Yeah, and knowing that it's Konami, I highly doubt where you're going to see that game resurface somewhere.
I mean, considering that they re-released Castlevania Dracula X on the SNES of all things, anything can be possible by this point.
You don't know with Konami, but
I mean,
You never
no,
will.
fuck them, but hey.
I don't have much
We don't know.
faith. This is the thing.
yeah. I've mentioned on Twitter about how they treat their IPs, modern Konami, and I said if you want to look at a good example of how they treat their how modern Konami treat their IPs nowadays, look how they're treating the Silent Hill series after Team Silent have broken up.
Yeah.
There's the
Yeah, it's Konami nowadays is more just scene from The Godfather where Don Corleone goes like, "Look at the mask, my boy."
yeah, exactly. So yeah, shutting down the the 3DS in Wii U eShop, I guess we can all agree it sucks.
Yep.
And you're now we're gonna have to legally at least we're gonna have to wait for Nintendo to release these games on their Nintendo Switch online service.
Yeah.
But when is that? I don't know. And even if they do it, they're gonna drop feed it every 3 games every 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, well, so that's the thing. I don't have a problem with the Nintendo Switch online being a way of doing it. The problem is that it's the only way, and to be honest, it's not a way I really want to support. I'd honestly rather just, not an unpopular opinion, I know, buy the game separately. Wow, wow, that's controversial, am I right? But
Actually,
that's definitely what I prefer.
I actually agree with you on that. I'm absolutely with you. I'm with you on the same boat for this one. I would have much prefer if I can buy the game separately, so I can play it whenever I want to, whether I have a Nintendo Switch online subscription or not. That would have been much better.
Yeah.
If I could do that, then I'd honestly probably be more excited for them announcing that Majora's Mask is going to be coming to that expansion thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's great, but I don't want to pay for that expansion. I don't want to pay that like extra money, or that. So I'm like, sorry, no.
Yeah.
If I could buy that separately, then like, okay, cool. Then yeah, I probably would. Like, I actually probably would like buy Majora's Mask separately to play on Switch. Have a because like the idea of playing that just like even portable is like, oh, okay, that's appealing for me, but not enough to be like, I'm gonna pay the extra for the subscription thing. I'm like, yeah, no, it's not doing that. Sorry.
Yeah, I would have preferred Nintendo went with the Sega Ages or Arcade Archives route with their classic releases, classic games, where they can release them on the eShop separately with the improvements and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
The Sega Ages collection on the Switch was so damn good.
It's a really good collection.
I got 4 games. I got Fantasy Zone, Space Harrier, what is it called? Outrun, and both Sonic 1 and 2. So no, not 4 games, 5 games.
Yeah. The only games
it's okay. Sonic 1 doesn't count. Sonic 2 though.
Yeah. The only games I have from Sega Ages on my Switch is Thunder Force 4, which is a great game, by the way. You should play it, and also Outrun, which is a brilliant port. Runs at 60 FPS, widescreen, has some remix music. Chef's Kiss, it's dope.
Yeah, it's fun. I first played it in Yakuza 0, and after I liked what I played, I had to buy this separately and enjoy it on my leisure. And that's what I did with both this one and Fantasy Zone. And
oh man.
Yeah.
That's I've been playing through like Lost Judgment, and one of the things that is in that is a Master System where you can actually buy games for it to play. Full-on Master System games, just there. You have like a catalog.
Wait, are you talking about that? Were you talking about the Fist of the North Star game?
Yes, that also had that as well.
Oh, it did. The Fist of the North Star game had a Master System.
Yes.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I believe you at least could play the Master System Fist of the North Star game, which is known as Black Belt, at least outside of Japan.
That's the Fist of the North Star game? I actually had no idea.
Yeah,
wow.
It was known as mentioned as a Black Belt internationally, but originally was a Fist of the North Star game.
Interesting.
You learn something new every day.
Yeah. So yeah, with the Nintendo shutting down the 3DS and Wii U eShop, legally, a lot of people won't be able to play a lot of classic and original games, and this, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, depending on how you look at it, is gonna encourage people to look to find these games through piracy.
Pretty much.
And normally, I don't condone piracy, especially with newer systems. But when it comes to outdated old systems, that there's no easy way to get these games legally, or it's from an old system that the company that released it many years ago isn't making profit out of it anymore. In that case, I think it's okay to do it to look to get it through these means. You know, homebrew your console and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
There's there is a thing. This like example, it always gets brought up because it's such a good example. But the Steam, they're
What?
trying to launch in Russia.
Yeah.
Where executives were like, no, don't do it. They always pirate. They always the games. We know that the pirating is like a huge thing over there. But the moment that they did that, they actually started to see less piracy happen and more legitimate sales come from Steam. Because what this proves is that the biggest reason why people do that is accessibility.
exactly.
And that's
That's
the
a
thing.
great
That is
point.
genuinely the thing. It is most people, I would say, probably closer to like 80%, maybe. The people that would pirate something are just because there is no other way they can obtain the thing.
Exactly.
Literally no other way.
Exactly.
Funny enough, Gabe Newell himself even had a quote related to how piracy pretty much happens because there's no good service, or his quote goes in something like that. He certainly says that. He certainly says something similar to it, and how he brings up his own service, Steam, as kind of an example. Now don't quote me on that 100%, but Gabe Newell does say something like that.
Yeah, I think he said something like that, but I don't remember the quote either. So yeah, I agree. Steam did it. Say what you will about the game curation and stuff like that, but when it comes to accessibility to their library and their accessibility to get these games, there's almost no services like it out there. Maybe GOG, I think, but
Yeah,
GOG is real.
fair-
Oh yeah, GOG is really good at that.
Oh yeah.
All their stuff is
they're
DRM
definitely
free,
good
too.
at old PC games, and you can even take the installer to these old games and pretty much install them on a real computer. Like for example, take for example an old game like Far Cry 1. You can take the installer to that, install that on a Windows XP machine, and then you can install Far Cry 1 digitally on a Windows XP machine and enjoy it from there if you're one of those people who like making retro gaming PCs.
neat.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. GOG is like, if you're into PC gaming, like you have to have GOG. You have to, like, trust me. It will make, not only will it just make your life easier, for a lot of like older games, but yeah, it's funny because we're talking about like game preservation. GOG does such a great job at that. Even if it is just like digitally stuff, at least it gives you a lot of access to things and ports and that can act like of older games that actually run and can run on like modern hardware. So it helps. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
indeed.
Even so, like, I think the reason why we're pretty hard on Nintendo for doing this is because other companies have basically done better, and it's kind of like, well, if they can do this, Nintendo, you can do this.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
You can do this.
but
Even Microsoft does a better job. I mean, I wouldn't say they do a job. I wouldn't say they're like on the same level as maybe GOG or Steam, but I think they're at least the best compared to Microsoft Sony and Nintendo. I mean, as they have the backwards compatibility plan, which allows you to play a couple of original Xbox games and a good chunk of Xbox 360 games on your modern Xbox consoles, whether it would be the Xbox One or the Xbox Series consoles. And I think that's definitely the way to go when it comes to backwards compatibility.
yeah, Sony's plan. Yeah, absolutely. And I've heard Sony's been planning to release a service that's similar, kind of to that. It's currently called the Project Spartacus, but we're gonna have to wait and see how it's gonna
Yeah.
go.
I'm at least hoping it's not exactly the same as a Nintendo one, at Switch Online, but they're probably gonna do that.
Yeah.
It's only me hoping.
I
Well,
just
Sony can rely. Well, I feel like Sony is at the point, like Nintendo, where they can just rely on their first-party stuff.
yeah,
now.
they're almost at that level now.
Yeah.
So they can afford to be like, oh, okay, we don't need to. Yeah, we can have the same practices. So I'm like, uh-oh. But we'll see. Anyway, enough of this topic. We've been all rambling on
Yeah.
for so long.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked plenty about the recent news from Nintendo. I think we had enough, but we had plenty to talk about without getting into our picks. But I think it's about time we got into our gaming picks for this episode. And we'll start with you, Dark. What have you played recently that you want to talk about for this episode?
So during last week, I've been spending quite a bit of time with Klonoa Door to Phantomile, which is the first Klonoa game on the PS1, and Klonoa 2 Lunatia's Veil on the PS2.
Which is appropriate since both have been announced on this Nintendo Directs. So perfect segue.
Indeed. And of course, the announcement of these games is what made me play these games. But anyway, let's get into these games, shall we? So of course, first, we'll talk about Klonoa Door to Phantomile, which was first released in 1997 on the PlayStation, and it was developed by Namco, who you may know around the time for the Ridge Racer games, and also a little later in that decade, the Soul Calibur series.
And Tekken as well.
Oh yeah, of course, Tekken. We can't forget about Tekken.
Yes.
So, starting off with the story first. The story in this game is a fairly straightforward story. It's in short about Klonoa, a cat or rabbit-like creature, I'm not sure what he's supposed to be, and his friend Hupo, who live in a world fueled by dreams known as Phantomile, whose goal is to save Phantomile from the evil Gaudius, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, with his loyal henchman Joka, and his evil scheme to fuel the place with nightmares instead. Although there are some rather...
So it's kind of like Kirby?
Yeah, I've heard the similarities between these
yeah.
two.
Wait,
yeah,
what?
Funny enough, there are some similar elements with Kirby, as it kind of has this dream theme, and it's kind of cutesy on the outside, especially around the beginning.
Yes.
But anyways,
Kirby doesn't have a Pac-Man hat, so
yeah, true enough. So I guess it's not as similar anyway. But anyway, although there are some rather touching moments, some neat twists, and fun characters, the story isn't anything particular. There isn't anything particularly special about the story, which is mainly there to give the player a form of motivation. It's not necessarily a bad thing though, especially not for a platformer like Klonoa. But all in all, the story isn't that special, but because of its moments, that's something I'm fine with. And also when the gameplay, more importantly, is good. Which, spoiler alert, it is! So what makes the gameplay in Klonoa good? The game is rather simple in terms of gameplay. It's a 2.5D platformer, meaning it's a 2D game inside a 3D world, where you can move left and right, and also look away from the camera and also directly at it, jump and grab items, and that's pretty much the main move set. From the surface, it's fairly simple, but the feel of how the game plays and the verticality of it and also level design is what adds to the game. The main move Klonoa has in his arsenal is using his ring to grab anything, especially with enemies who, in the way of Lanky Kong and Demon Art, inflate themselves, just like a balloon. With this, Klonoa can throw enemies, or possibly the most important move in the game in my opinion, using them to get extra height. This especially is what adds depth to the game, especially in more challenging platforming segments. As long as you're good with timing, you can do this as many times with as many enemies as possible, while you're still in the air. Additionally, there's also a floating move that lets you stay in the air at a fixed position for a little longer, and it can be handy if you want to reach a platform you otherwise wouldn't miss by a little, or if you want to make sure you get a gem. The levels themselves are also quite varied in terms of locales. You go from the breezy breezegale to the watery jugpot to the foresty forelock, and help certain characters in these places along the way. The game is fairly short. It's split into 6 different worlds with 2 stages each, or visions as they're called. Although the game isn't really hard, I would say it's challenging in some places. The gameplay is mostly a platformer, but there are certain puzzles that are also a part of the game that adds to the game. The levels in this game put a lot of your skills to the test, whether it's throwing enemies on switches or doing platforming. There are even parts where Klonoa has to grab or throw enemies and items in other directions than just left and right, such as in while Klonoa is looking at the camera, for instance. And they're more not just left and right, just to put it briefly, which I think is neat and adds to the 2.5 nature of the game. It's a neat mix between the two. It's a neat mix between the platforming and puzzling, as a result rather enjoyable to play. The game has a nice difficulty too, as it starts easy enough but becomes rather challenging by the end. And the actual level you unlock by collecting all 6 captured villagers in each vision is definitely the most challenging of them all, and rightfully so, as it is a stage that tests what you have learned through saving all these villagers and also playing the game. Overall, Klonoa is an example of a game where simplicity is beauty, and it's always a good time each time I boot up the game. So we get to the presentation. Besides the gameplay, the whole presentation is another thing that adds to the game. For starters, the game looks great. Even today, it manages to age rather well despite being on the PS1, thanks to its mix of pre-rendered sprites and 3D rendered worlds, and some 3D rendered boss characters. And the art direction is strong with a lot of nice looking set pieces that all look nice with vibrant colors. Every stage, whether it's the windy and green breeze scale, the glowing caves, or the nice and lush forest of Forlock, all look great. And on top of that, the game runs at a smooth 60 FPS frame rate, and doesn't suffer too much from the fine texture warping or in short, the wobbly textures as people call it, that, depending on how you look at it, plagued most PS1 games, or maybe add to the PS1 aesthetic, in quotes. It's there, but it's not too noticeable, at least not in my opinion. Klonoa himself also has a great and memorable design, and I like the little Pac-Man on his cap. He wouldn't be out of place in the Sonic universe, as he does look a little like a Sonic character. The music is another component that adds to the presentation. It goes for a little more atmospheric feel, but not without nice melodies, of course. It also has quite a variation too, as it can go from a more orchestral sound to even drum and bass for one boss fight. And obviously the song that plays in that boss fight, that drum and bass track, is probably my favorite in the game, mainly because I'm a sucker for drum and bass. But the music goes well. The music goes well with all the stages the game has to offer, and everything that goes on overall. One touch I like about the music is that it dynamically changes depending on what part of the stage you're in. Such as in Vision 4.1 and 4.2, I believe, the lead instrument changes from whistles to flutes depending on where in the stage you are. Such as when you enter a cave, the lead instrument goes from whistling to flutes, and little as mentioned before. And it's little touches like these that makes the game more interesting, in my opinion. The sound effects are also rather interesting. A couple of them are stock sounds, though. I did notice a couple of the stock sounds, but they are used well regardless, and the voice acting is pretty good, although the characters speak in their own fictional language. Think of something like Rayman 2, where they all kind of speak quote-unquote Raymanian. Unless you, of course, you play the PS1 version of it, where they speak in full voice acting, full English.
I believe.
But-
I
Oh,
believe.
like Banjo then?
No,
Kinda
no.
like Banjo?
Oh no, no.
No, not quite.
I think.
It's more like in.
I think like in one of these games in both Ico and Shadow of the Colossus, where they speak this language that sounds Japanese, but it's not.
Oh.
Yeah,
oh,
it's
okay.
that. Yeah,
So
it's
like
that kind of thing. Also vaguely similar to Gravity Rush, which also is kind of similar language.
Yeah.
But anyway, but everyone does a good job either way. So, overall, Klonoa Door to Phantomile has been a good time, with its great visuals, tight gameplay, great music, and story with its moments. There's little to wonder why this game is fondly remembered, and why it's in a way a timeless game, so I can definitely give it a good recommendation. But of course, this wasn't the only Klonoa game, as it was at least successful enough in Japan especially to get a sequel. So we got, in 2001, Klonoa 2 Lunatia's Veil, which was released on the PlayStation 2. There was apparently, according to Wikipedia, a GameCube version planned, but it was cancelled seemingly. So, the story is about Klonoa, this time falling in the water in a place known as Lunatia after being asked by an unknown silhouette for help. The sky pirate Leorina and her feline partner, and her feline partner Cat, are above him on the ship, about to take his ring, only to be stopped by Lolo, a priestess in training, and their pal Popka, a dog thing who looks like a stitched together puppet, and they leave to not risk losing the ring. After Klonoa meets Lolo and Popka and knowing where he is, they then go to the High Priestess. Along the way, using Lolo's power to power Klonoa's ring, he rings a big bell. After meeting with the High Priestess and Lolo finally being granted the role of an actual priestess, they embark on a quest to ring the giant giant bells that are spread across Lunatia. But they aren't the only one with this goal, as the Sky Pirates, Leorina and Cat, have the same goal in mind, but with a different motivation. The story in this game is certainly more involved and engaging in this game than in Klonoa 1. The rivalry between Klonoa and Leorina really adds to the story, as it gives depth and some sense of urgency, and I've overall been more invested with the characters and story than in the first game. It's not the deepest story in the world, but it's a story that does more than just give the players the motivation to get to the end, I feel. And I feel it's overall more engaging than the first game. Maybe it didn't quite touch me quite as much, but it's quite good overall. I also like some of the undertones of the game in a couple of the worlds, mainly in the snowbound Mira, where its inhabitants primarily stay in the gallery to look at works that remind them of the past, which I feel is a metaphor for never moving forward or possibly nostalgia. That's what stood out to me the most, at least. But other worlds in this game could give some kind of undertone too. So the gameplay of Klonoa 2 is mostly the same as Klonoa 1, which I'd say is a good thing, considering how good the gameplay in the last game was. Klonoa controls and plays as well as ever, and maybe even a little better too, as I feel the controls are more snappy and has more depth as well. In the first game, okay, I'm going to mention some cons I didn't mention about Klonoa 1, but here we go. In the first game, whenever I jump immediately after grabbing an enemy, Klonoa starts doing that additional jump as if he was in the air when I'm actually on the ground. But that's only like immediately after I grab an enemy, keep that in mind. But in Klonoa 2, I never felt that it was the case. Though that's maybe because I was playing the first game at 50 Hz from a PAL copy, and I played the second game at 60 Hz, which is from a PAL copy too, but it has option for 60 Hz. But Klonoa 2 also feels more responsive in the sequels. That's the point. But anyways, especially since it takes less time for him to start jumping with the enemies. And there is a new quirk that has been added where, depending on where you grab the enemy in midair and the timing, you can get some extra height if you grab the enemy a little from the top, which I believe adds some depth to the game's mechanics. Klonoa's moveset has also been slightly expanded, mainly when he grabs certain enemies, with the two main ones being an electric enemy that allows Klonoa to do a higher additional jump after a small wind up that can break through blocks above him, and an enemy that allows him to lift up high in the air like a rocket. In addition, Klonoa has some sick boarding, dude! As there are now parts of the game where he's on a board which are not only in 2.5D, but also in 3D. The core mechanics are still intact, as you still do the same moves as you can when on foot, including grabbing, floating, and all that, but with the addition of accelerating forward and backwards. They're alright, but I prefer platforming parts more. If there's one thing I have to pick on, is that the bomb enemies can take too long before they explode. In the previous games, they took some time before exploding. In Klonoa 2, there's one kind of that bomb enemy that takes maybe 30 seconds or something before one explodes, and it can be rather painful to wait. Pro tip, throw an enemy at it if you can, it's simply faster. Another thing the game improves upon is the level design, or at least the challenge of the game. In the previous game, as mentioned, the game wasn't that hard, and even when it got challenging, it wasn't really hard. Klonoa 2 puts up more of a challenge. The levels utilize Klonoa's moveset to its full potential more, and the hardest levels Klonoa 2 offers are more challenging than Klonoa 1's hardest levels. The game also now has a world map similar to what's found in something like New Super Mario Bros., only that it came before New Super Mario Bros. Klonoa 1 did have a world map, but you couldn't access it until you beat the game. In Klonoa 2, you can revisit levels at any time, no matter how much progress you made, which I welcome. The levels themselves are maybe more interesting than in the first game, in my opinion. I think a lot of the locations are more creative than in the previous game, as you get places such as the first level where you go through a dark seaway instead of a happy and green village, and further into the game, you get locations such as a theme park with a ghost house in addition, a city at war, and a mysterious gallery. The game also isn't short on replay value like the previous game. Throughout the game, you can collect 6 collectibles each stage, similar to the first game, but instead of captured villagers, it's pieces of a doll, and collecting them all, like the first game, unlocks an extra stage that's possibly the most challenging one in the game, and collecting at least 150 dreamstones in one stage adds an image you can view in the gallery. Each stage has unique pics or renders they're neat to collect. Overall, the game is more of the same, but improved in a couple of ways, which makes Klonoa 2 feel more refined than the first game. So as for presentation, Klonoa 2 is definitely another looker. Being on the PS2, the game is fully rendered in 3D instead of the pre-rendered and 3D mix. Every character is rendered this time around, and the game also uses a cel-shaded style this time too. Although I prefer the look of the first game in some ways, Klonoa 2 still looks pretty good for the PS2. Every stage looks nice and distinct with good art direction, and the cel-shaded look gives it some flair. Just like the first game, the game is also at 60 FPS, which makes the game a smooth experience. And the game also features some dynamic camera angles, especially in parts where Klonoa launches in the air, either with the rocket enemy or being launched by a cannon. Klonoa also sports a new design which makes him look like a modern Sonic character this time, especially because of his eyes. And he now rocks a blue attire rather than a red attire, but his Pac-Man cap remains the same. The soundtrack of Klonoa 2 is great. Like the first game, a lot of the songs fit the game nicely, and has some nice variation. It's also a soundtrack filled with a lot of emotion, not too unlike the first game though. But I don't think I felt sadness be expressed quite as well as this game's soundtrack, especially one of the last stages of the game with the song Huponia, or Ruin of Sadness, which also combined some songs from the first game's soundtrack to create a rather sad and emotional piece that really left an impression on me as I was playing through the stage. overall, the soundtrack is great stuff and needs to be talked about more. So, in conclusion, Klonoa 2 does what Klonoa 1 did, but only that it in many ways improved upon it. The gameplay and level design have been improved upon, the music is great yet again, the story is more engaging, and overall, the game feels more refined. And I'm all for it. With all that being said, it's a great duology of games, which I'm happy to have finally gotten around to play, and I'm looking forward to the Klonoa Fantasy Reverie series. That's my view on these two games.
Yeah,
Honestly, it sounds super great. Honestly, I've seen some gameplay of 1 and 2, more so 2 now that I think about it. But I always found that the slight design changes from 1 and 2 to be kind of jarring at points. It's like suddenly the yellow eyes just aren't there. But you know, I do kind of like that it kind of gives each game in the duology more of its own identity.
I think,
Yeah, exactly.
I believe the Wii remake, Klonoa's design was almost the same as his look in Klonoa 2, but for the
it's kind of a combination where it kind of has the modern Sonic-like eyes and the outfit from the first game.
So it's a Santiago. Only like from some people are gonna get that joke. It's like a classic Sonic from Sonic Forces. Got it.
No, but for the remaster, the Fantasy Reverie series version of Klonoa 1, they decided to change his look to make him look more similar to his PS1 equivalent. So the yellow, for the first game at least, the yellow eyes are back. Same with the costume.
They also made the colors in the Fantasy Reverie version of Klonoa 1 look a lot more vibrant, similar to the PS1 game, which was kind of less vibrant in the Wii game from what I've seen.
I don't remember. I never played. I've only seen pictures that compares between the two, and yeah, I can see the difference.
Yeah, but honestly, I'm glad that they are getting remastered because like we said before, trying to obtain those games now, like physically, is not advisable at all.
Yeah, definitely. Although I'm definitely lucky that I got these games for a fair price at the very least. And I would definitely recommend you to do the same if you can find them for a fair price, that is. But for the price they usually go for, look elsewhere. Or at least wait for the Fantasy Reverie series to come out. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a great way to play these games. I want to get these games.
Sure.
Yeah, it's coming on almost every random system out there, so you barely have an excuse when they come out. And I hope they sell well, unlike the Wii remake, which didn't do well, unfortunately.
The Wii make.
The Wii make, as some people call it. Also, I believe the Wii make had English voice acting. Not sure if the fantasy series review will gonna keep that.
Yeah, that's yeah, right. The game had English voice acting, and Klonoa's voice kind of sounded more like a teenager. I don't know, maybe I'm just used to its cutesy, its cutesy voice, but it's kind of odd to hear him have a voice similar to a teenager in the Wii version, or at least maybe in the English version. Maybe he has the Japanese voice actress voicing him. Who knows?
That reminds me of Sonic Unleashed Chip. You know how he sounds in the English and the Japanese version? Completely different.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, they are. It's very, very, very different.
Yeah, he sounds like a kid in the Japanese version, which I think fits his character model a little bit more.
Yeah.
Whoa! Look, Sonic, a Chaos Emerald!
Oh my god, you nailed it.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan. I wasn't a fan of his English voice. It's not the actor's fault. It's just not a good casting. Although what is his name? Jason Griffith's performance in Unleashed is probably one of the best.
Absolutely.
That and Black Knight are definitely his best.
Yeah.
For sure.
But let's not be too sidetracked by Sonic here, although I did mention some Sonic-related things during my review. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, I think you've said your piece, and you recommend both these two. And I don't know about Gumshoe, but for me, I'm definitely looking forward to playing the Fantasy Reverie series remasters of these two.
I am. I don't know if it's gonna be a day one buy for me because I kind of want to see just how like. Yeah, I've been burned in the past by ports before, but it's definitely probably I'll say like a week one for sure for me because I'm very very interested in playing these games.
I can at least say that unlike the the GTA the Trilogy Definitive Edition. Sorry to bring that up.
Oh well, I mean that didn't even look like it was finished.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, unlike that game where I could already tell from the trailer it just didn't look good. I can at least say that it does. I can at least say that it doesn't look bad.
Yeah, and I'm glad that I'm just glad that I could actually reasonably get these games and play them now. So
Yeah, without
yeah, that alone is enough for me to be like, you know what, I probably will get these games. I probably will get that
absolutely.
because
And you will.
yeah. So I can't wait. Honestly, I can't wait. That's it because they sound really good. I was listening to you talk about them. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I definitely would like these platformers. It's just like right. Sound like super fun.
Oh yeah, you're definitely gonna have a good time with them.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the similarities to Kirby, and I'm a fan of Kirby, so I guess, yeah, I'm probably gonna have a good time with these two games.
For some reason, it could be like an Ant Dude thing. Like, yeah, it's about Kirby. I'm definitely stoked about it.
Yeah.
You're saying it's like Kirby and Sonic, but not. Got it.
Well, that was DarkSparkish picks for this episode. The games he discussed. He discussed both Klonoa 1 and 2. And yeah, I guess it's I think it's time to get to your picks, Gumshoe. What do you got? You're the RPG guy for this show. So
I kind of love how, because it's funny because I think when I was first on here, I didn't actually talk all the time about RPGs, but now it's kind of been the thing. So I bring to you yet another RPG from the long forgotten ages of 1990s. Well, actually, technically even later than that. With Ys 1 and 2, these are, where we talk about like old school RPGs, we mean like old school RPGs. These are games that didn't even leave Japan. They were developed for the did leave Japan until the 90s, I want to say, with the TurboGrafx 16.
They did release in outside of Japan on these machines with of course English voice acting, professionally done English voice acting, may I add, which wasn't common for the time.
Wait, Ys 1 and 2 had voice not the version I played. I didn't hear any voice acting in the version I played.
That's but they did.
Well, wait. Was there voice acting? Oh yeah, no wait, yeah. But it wasn't English. I remember there being some Japanese voice.
They did have English voice acting in the English versions, and again, they're very well done. It's actually well done voice acting by professionals instead of being done by amateurs.
Ys 1 and 2, or
yeah, Ys 1 and
other...
2.
Because I know the later games in the series ended up doing that, but Ys 1 and 2, or as they're known more, Book 1 and 2. These games were this is what I like to say is the sister series to the Trails of games, because they're both by Falcom.
Falcom, yes. I know, and
They're both,
just looked at it on Wikipedia. Yeah.
yeah, they're both by Falcom, and while the Trail series is a turn-based with there's some 3D movement there within the battles, but it's mainly it's a turn-based RPG. The Ys games have always been an action RPG, and it's older, so you might be thinking okay, this is when you think about a game that's been released on the PC engine, how do you do an action game? Well, that's kind of part of why I think this game is so interesting to talk about, but I'll get into that a bit. I think that the main thing that I do need to get into is that these two games have been re-released a lot over the years. There's a PlayStation 2 version, there's a Microsoft Windows version, there's a DS version, there's a PlayStation Portable version, there is even a phone version of these games now. So they're out there. They're out there. The version I played is has been described to me the best way to get it, which is the Ys 1 and 2 Chronicles Plus for Steam. That gets you the original game that got brought onto the TurboGrafx 16, and also one of the updated re-releases that contained newer art and also different music. You get it if you like let's say you like the art of one release but don't like the music of the other release, you can switch it on the fly, and that's kind of neat. Has a lot of quality of life features. That's awesome. But the main reason why I really wanted to talk about these games is because I beat both of them within a week, and these are RPGs. And yet I consider them to be very good games, because it was at that time, especially the first game. I mean, if we just want to break down the plot, I'll break down the first game now, because the first game, literally the plot is your dude named Adol, or it might be Adol. I don't know. I've always said Adol because it's ADOL, but the first game, you're tasked by getting these 6 books of Ys, which is spelled YS. They contain history and legends of all this great area, land of Ys, and you need to find all the books so you can gain the knowledge to defeat evil. That's it. That's the plot. Go. It doesn't get really more complex than that. You're a dude. You're woken up. You got this mission, and you're gonna search through the land, finding all books, and then at the end you defeat a big bad, which once you have all the books, you can now enter to the land of Ys, which then goes into the second game. But the second game is there's a little more happening in the second game than the first game, but both of these games are pretty simplistic, and I think that kind of plays into its strengths a lot, because the story and stuff about these games, it's not really about the ongoing plot. It is way more about the NPCs, the moment-to-moment interactions that you have, which get expanded on in the second game. But it's one thing that I've noticed with Falcom, and it's a constant between even going back to Ys 1, is that they put a lot of detail into just NPC and dialogue. These are pretty wordy games, not especially for the time, and to have all these named NPCs and areas that are just out doing their thing it's very very nice to see. It's kind of why their Falcom's games tend to have pretty large scripts too, so they're very detailed in that department, which kind of make every location that you go through feel very lived in and lively for an old game. It's just really nice to see, and it's kind of why I think that Ys 1 and 2 have held up pretty well, even visually and storytelling wise. Gameplay, is another story. And it's not a bad thing, but it's a different thing. This is an action RPG. There's no turn-based battles. But there are enemies that you encounter in like the wild field where you're going through the different areas and going through dungeons and stuff. How do you deal with them? You bump into them with your sword. So you literally are like, it's hard to explain, but basically what you have to do is you have to make sure that you're not charging into the enemy dead center, because then you're just going to trade blows. You need to be a little bit off to the enemy, like to the side, or try to attack them diagonally, so you can hit them with your sword without them hitting you. And the more that I try to like describe this, especially with when I've described this before with other people, the immediate reaction is like, that sounds like a terrible system. I hate it. No, not playing this. What I will say is that thankfully, the game is very good at teaching you how it all works. Enemies aren't necessarily super impossible to defeat with them. That eventually you will just kind of get a feel for it. I will say though, there are some pretty questionable hitboxes in the first game that make you realize, okay, was I really supposed to be hit there? Especially with some of the bosses. But the bump system as it's called, is one of those that like I think you're either gonna kind of like it or you're just gonna hate it. It's the biggest hurdle I think when it comes for this game. Luckily, there's difficulty options, which is why I would say if you ever want to get into this game, play it on at least normal. You can go up to Nightmare, and like no exaggeration, the hardest difficulty in both of these games is brutal. It is like insanely brutal. I don't know how people beat some of these games in the Nightmare difficulty. It's like it's insane. So with that kind of in mind, and the fact that it is like an RPG, I mentioned before how I beat these two games in basically a week. The first game I beat in one setting. Like I started, I want to say like at 10 or so, and I ended at like 9 p.m. Throughout. It was like that, and I beat it in one setting. One of the reasons why like Ys 1 I do consider to be kind of has kind of like held up pretty well over time, is that there's literally no grinding. The max level that you get in Ys 1 is 10. Once you reach 10, that's it. There. And all your encounters after that are just going to be purely skill-based. So at early on, there's probably going to be some parts where you're like, oh man, I kind of wish I had more health, or I did more damage. That's like, oh, okay, well then cool. You can just maybe grind up a little enemies here so you can get that next level. But then the moment you get that next level, it's like you get such a power boost every single level that I actually think that the hardest part of this game is the beginning and the end. Because in the beginning, you feel pretty underpowered. But while you're grinding and doing everything, it's not that bad until the end of the game, where now you're max level. You have all of the armor, you have all of the equipment to take on the challenge. So now the game's going to throw as much as it can at you. So with that in mind, I don't think it's necessarily a badly designed game, and I do kind of like that I was able to just kind of play it and then beat it. There's something, and it being a very good experience with that too. But it's probably why this game is bundled with the second game all the time, and it's not a Final Fantasy situation where because the second game's bad. It's really, I think it is just because the first game is very, very short, and the ending of the first game has you waking up in the land of Ys, basically being like, well, there you go, you made it. Now what? Guess you gotta play the second game and figure out. So it works very well as a duology in that sense.
But for the first game, do you recruit any any partners, any
No,
other characters?
There's no party member.
parties?
There's no party member recruiting in 1 or 2.
Oh,
So it's just you.
because I assume because it's a JRPG, I assume there's gonna be party members with you that helps you and stuff like that. Oh, so it's basically an old school RPG.
This has a lot of old school RPG mentality going on here, which is kind of why it's interesting how well it's holding up given the era that it comes from. I honestly think that if it was if the bump system didn't take a little bit of time to adjust to, then this would be a way easier game for me to like duology for me to recommend. Because actually, literally everything else about it I like. It's just that combat, and sometimes it's not necessarily a very easy thing for people to just kind of get, especially with like how modern games would definitely do it. It's a little weird at times, but if you can get over that hurdle, then like you'll have a great time with it for sure. It makes the entire game super fast-paced. Bosses are always going to keep you on your toes, and in the first game, the only way you can really do damage is by bumping into them. So it's kind of figuring out like, oh, okay, so the boss, I can try to like bump into the boss here. When can I not do that? Try figuring out all the patterns, standard stuff, and that stuff is really fun. Except for the final boss. Final boss sucks. It is one of those bosses that like you can instantly die in if you don't know what you're doing, and requires a lot of trial and error, which is why I'm glad I didn't play it on like hard or nightmare, because I honestly probably wouldn't have beaten the game within that day if I wasn't playing it on a normal, because geez, the final boss of Geese 1 is just it's one of those bosses where you have a limited amount of space, and every time you strike the boss, he takes a tile out of the ground. So eventually, you have to think about it in a way of, okay, I need to do as much damage as I possibly can to this person, but I also got to make sure that he doesn't take away a tile, so I'm just stuck there and gonna get hit. So I have enough way to maneuver around. It's a hard fight, but thankfully it is one of those fights that like pretty much ends within a minute or less. But it's either like either the boss just kills you, or you kill the boss. There really isn't an in between.
I see.
so
But that's Yeast 1, honestly. Yeast 1 is a pretty good game, if a bit short.
what about the second game then?
The second game is even better in most regards, I will say. Some of the bosses can be, I think, a little bit too much at times, but that's okay. Where Adol now has waken up in the floating island of Yeast. Adol meets a young woman named Lydia, and she's like, well, listen, okay, we all have magic here, but we kind of are being like oppressed by like the evil monsters and everything, so we need you to help, because you're kind of, because you can kind of you have some connection to the goddesses of Yeast, so we need you to go to their temple and figure out how we can stop this big bad. So pretty much the same kind of plot as the first game. You're Adol, there's a big bad thing you need to stop, so you got to go do that. However, the differences here is that not only is the game longer for sure, because this one did take me some time to beat, there are way more villages, way more people to talk to, and actually just a lot more to do in this game than you would expect. This game also adds in, for gameplay stuff, magic. Actually have a magic bar. And the way you get magic is by using other staffs. There is one staff that you get I want to say it's mid-game, that lets you transform into a little miniature like monster demon. What that does is let you talk to demons there, like of the monsters that are on like the area, and they'll usually give you tips and some dialogue to help you if you're stuck on an area, or sometimes you need to do that for plot progression. And that's also the thing too, is there's a lot more stuff you kind of have to do for plot progression purposes, more so than the first game, which was pretty like, get this thing here, okay, now get this thing here, okay, now you just have like this dungeon, then this dungeon, and then you're basically at the end of the game. This game, there's more story, there's more characters to go around, there's like rhyme and reason for why things happen. There's an entire village that is in a volcano, or at least a lava area, that you go there and they find out that they all hate you for some reason. You just arrived like a day or two ago. I don't know, like why do they hate me? Turns out like it's because they're forced to treat you badly by the monsters, demon dudes, because they live pretty close near. So they're doing everything to try and stop you, without actually killing you, obviously. And you have to find out by turning into a demon and talking to one of the villagers about their situation. So then you can come back there and later and say, haha, I know what's up, I can help you with your problem, and then continue on. And so it's stuff like that. There's a lot more depth to the second game than there was found in the first game, and a lot more, I would say, just memorable moments and memorable dialogue too. It is still basically the same game as the first game. It still has the same bump system, though hitboxes are way better, and your movement and everything is still pretty similar. The best part, I will say though, is that no longer is your max level 10. It's now, I believe it's now 50 something. I don't know. I didn't reach max level when I play this game, which means that you'll be leveling up a lot faster. And you can also grind if you prefer to. But there is a more natural kind of difficulty curve with Yeast 2 than there was with Yeast 1, I would say. So if Yeast 1 was kind of like the rough draft prototype, just throwing it out there, Yeast 2 is that game, but then like smoothed down all the rough edges, like just enough to where it's definitely the superior game, but not so much that it's like it just immediately outclasses like the first game, because there are some enemy positions, and there are some pretty cryptic stuff that I had to look up a guide for, because I didn't know. Like I didn't know if I needed this, like where to get a certain item or stuff like that. There was a little bit more of that kind of crypticness in Yeast 2 than Yeast 1, which I felt was way more straightforward. But all in all, the second game is a lot of fun. It was great. It was a more standard length. I think my game time was like around 10 hours, maybe 12 hours for Yeast 2, which is still pretty significant, especially since I didn't really do any grinding. I never felt the need to with the second game. So that was all really great. I love that they added magic, because it adds another layer to things. You now don't have to use the bump system. You get the first magic thing you get is the fireball, which means that now you have a ranged way to deal with enemies, and that will progressively get stronger throughout the game by more items that you get. So it really is just like they've expanded so much more than you would expect from just one game to the next. That I like it a lot. And I took my time with that one too. So I actually do think 2 is just a very good game, and it's kind of just everything that I liked about the first game is found in too, and yeah, it's just not like a super significant jump. It's just a lot of the little things have been kind of ironed out to make it a better experience overall. I'll say.
Do you think these two games are RPG casual friendly, so to someone who's not real into RPGs?
I don't think they would be that friendly, but if you are curious, play on easy mode. If you have not experienced that, because I think that is the biggest hurdle, is that the gameplay aspect of this, I feel is just not going to be for everyone, which is why I'm glad there was like an easy mode, because I still think that even on easy, the game will provide you with a good amount of challenge, for sure. Especially the second game. Oh yeah, the second game's definitely going to test you, for some bosses, and there are more bosses in the second game as well. But yeah, it's just that gameplay hurdle. The good news is Ys 1 and 2, this collection goes on sale pretty often. I got mine for like, what was it? I want to say it was like $3. So, yeah, like luckily it's not like going to be breaking bank for any of these. So if you are curious, there's this. There are, these two, which are a good place to start. I wanted to start here because I knew from a friend of mine who is super into this series, so that these are like good ports, and this is a great place to start. You technically don't have to start with like these games. There is a bit of like narrative progression because all the Ys games have the same protagonist, but you can theoretically kind of start at a different spot if you don't want to play the older ones that have the bump system and the newer ones have a more traditional action RPG ARPG gameplay. So I just think it just is the gameplay part that is going to be the biggest hurdle.
But
Alright.
but in terms of story and world and stuff like that,
In terms of story and characters, yeah, those have aged really well. They're very well written. There's a lot of really funny things. There's even things that you can do. I didn't that, like, if you do these kind of complex or maybe a little cryptic kind of things with some NPCs, they might offer you different dialogue, or there's ways to get like a free sword if you know how to do that. There's like a lot of secrets with these games too, which you don't have to do on your first playthrough. They're kind of just there for repeat playthroughs, or if you're curious about finding like alternate ways to get things, or alternate dialogue that only appears. There's literally this line of dialogue from an NPC that only appears if you go, I want to say it's halfway through a dungeon area, and then you go back to a town and talk to this one NPC that's there. They have dialogue for there, but it will not. But that dialogue will change if you finish the dungeon and then try to talk to that same person.
that's very specific.
Yeah, very, very specific. I'm not giving out like names because spoilers, I guess, but there is like a reason for why he would have different dialogue, or there would be like a different kind of scene there, but stuff like that. And it's kind of so interesting because the Trails series has a lot of that too, or like if especially like the last one I played was Cold Steel 2, and Cold Steel 2, like even depending on who you have as the party lead, could lead to some different dialogue options. Just like, oh dang, that's interesting. So to kind of go all the way back and see that like this has kind of just always been a thing with their games is really neat to see. So yeah, I do give it some bonus points for kind of it being old, and that's kind of why I do say this is great given the context of when it came out, how old it is. But if you like classic old school RPGs, I do think Ys 1 and 2 are definitely they should be up there. You should at least like try them out. I wouldn't say they're necessarily must plays, but if you're curious at all about the series, then I think they're good games. They're just generally good games.
I'm looking up their Wikipedia page, and the Yeast 1 and 2 are both late 80s RPGs.
Mm-hmm.
So they're really old. And they're action RPGs, huh?
Yep. Action RPGs.
Excuse me for being a bit of a casual and ignorant when it comes to that issue, but I thought action RPGs weren't a thing until like the PS2 era.
Well, actually, you see, this is the problem with like genres, especially now, and like how we kind of say them. I mean, I say it like classifying genres like a bad thing. It's not, but I'm just saying that like, because when I say action adventure game, it doesn't really tell you much of that, or by action role play games are ARPGs or action RPGs, whatever you want to call them. The way that we know them now wasn't started to become the norm in the PS2 generation. Before then, there were action RPGs, which is why kind of Yeast is a pioneer of action RPGs, in that sense. But they kind of had it at a little bit different approach per each game.
They were still developing.
But yeah, it was still developing. So this is like the early days of an action RPG. And yeah, they weren't really a thing because back then system limitations just seemed it like, oh, it was way easier if we just did turn-based, because that way it just you can work with the system limitations better than if you try to do everything in real time. But for the Yeast games, they're on the PC engine. We can like, no, we can have like good sprite work and good performance while still being while still having everything real time. So that's why it's an action RPG. I guess you could, if you want to call it something a little different, because calling it action RPG now thinks of the way that's kind of said is a little makes you kind of think of like more modern games, but this is a bit older. You could think of it as like a real-time RPG or something, active RPG. I don't know.
Classic action, perhaps.
Yeah, because it definitely plays differently than what you would.
Role-playing action.
Yeah, the comparison that people bring up a good amount for like the old school Yeast games is Hide Glide. If any of you are familiar with that.
Yeah, I'm probably mostly familiar with it through the AVGN, but also Pro Jared though.
Yeah, same.
So yeah, Hide Glide. Basically, think of it as a better version of Hide Glide.
Yeah, I could
like
definitely
way better version.
Ah.
It takes kind of like, because like the Hide Glide is technically an action RPG as well. That is also one, but it's again like early in. So you're working with so much limitations that like nowadays we don't have. And if you're having those limitations, then it's purely for like game. It's a very calculated like purpose for doing that. So that's kind of why I do find these games interesting, and it's why I'm amazed that they hold up as well as they do, because
yeah,
that's a miracle. The second game is also very popular in Japan. Actually, the Yeast games when they came out were very, very popular over there.
Not surprising.
So
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, maybe probably not as popular like Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest.
Not to that level, but like the main girl in Yeast 2 had a lot of promotional stuff done in Japan. Like Japan really loved her, so there's that going on.
I see. I mean, to be honest, it's not really it's not that surprising that it's at least popular in some way there, because RPGs are just generally very popular in Japan.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely.
If you see any gameplay of like the Ys 1 or 2, you also kind of notice that it's very much a PC Engine game in that it has a fancy border and everything. You play the game like a window, and your HUD is all like very detailed and everything. So like you take one look at it and you think like, oh yeah, no, this is a old Japanese game. It's like very obvious. It has all of the hallmarks, I could say, too.
I see. So I have one question regarding the Ys 1 and 2. Do you know which version of the game is the best one?
The version that I played that just has both, because what it is technically, okay, because what I mean by like what the Chronicles or the Plus version, the main difference between all of them is just art and soundtrack. That's it. So that's why I recommend getting the Steam release, which I think is also on something else. It's called Ys 1 and 2 Chronicles Plus, which is like a very weird, different title, especially having a plus in there. That's a very odd. But I know that's I know that's on GOG too. You prefer to get it on there, and it's also on my. I think it was on the PSP. Maybe I might be wrong about that. Because that's the version that released in 2013, and that's the version that's the most up to date with everything and has better options and better screen resolutions and stuff like that.
Quality of life services as well.
Yeah, a lot of that. So
I'm looking.
Highly recommend that. Sure.
I'm looking up the Wikipedia page for the series, and it has 2 separate OVAs. I believe.
Oh yeah, forgot about that. It does.
Oh yeah. It's pretty popular, and it's a long-running series. Yeah. I can see why it's a fairly popular series of JRPGs. Okay.
Yep.
So you do recommend
These games? Yeah, and I do. I very much recommend these games. I didn't really talk much about the visuals, because honestly I think that they can speak for themselves of how like gorgeous the game is. Like honestly, it is a very, very good looking game. And the portraits you can change if you want to be the original graphics, original artwork, or the updated artwork that's more in line with like modern Falcom stuff. Music too. Oh geez, the music too is just, it's like amazing. Falcom does all their music stuff like in-house, and I swear their game OSTs are just always good. This has just been like a constant that I've noticed. It's just like it's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really do give a lot of attention to detail. I kind of noticed, even if the entire thing, because like I'll say, it's a pretty generic setup. Generic fantasy setup. You do the fantasy things. You're the hero. You'll save the day. But it's the attention to details and stuff like that that really make the game shine.
Yeah, I see. I have definitely gotten to know a little about the E series through Joe from GameSack, because he's a pretty big fan of the series, and he also used a couple of the new games music as background music too. So yeah, I can definitely tell.
Yeah, honestly, I probably wouldn't have even played this game or played these games as soon as I did, if there wasn't a sale going on, and if I didn't already have someone to kind of help me if I was ever stuck at some point, so I didn't have to look up like a guide all the time. But I'm glad I did, and I don't really consider them guide games unless you want to go for everything. If you want to like do everything, like get 100%, look up a guide. Get all the like achievements and stuff. Just look up a guide because there's so much stuff that I didn't even realize you could do in these games. So yeah, it really is the attention to detail that kind of makes the game a bit of a higher rating than I'd probably normally give.
I see.
Nice.
Well, that's pretty cool. I'm actually pretty interested in trying out at least East 1 and 2. Maybe I might miss there.
All right.
Yeah, the next East game I'll probably play is 6. That's the one I've been told to play next. Which yeah, I know, right? You're going from 1, 2, and then to 6, but don't worry. Apparently, that's the better order. There's you some skipping around with
So it's like Final.
game.
So it's like a Final Fantasy series. Yeah.
In that sense, but you are following the same protagonist. But it's not like. I think it's from what I've been told. Certain games, certain numbered games, are more closely tied than others. So, but like 1 and 2 are very closely tied, and then they stop being closely tied after that. And then I think the most recent ones, starting with what was it, 8? I think is that one. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, because 9 is the most recent one. The one before that, 8. So I think and then 8 and 9 are pretty closely tied together. So there's some jumping around that you can do.
I see. Is there any other thing you want to talk about for these two games? Anything you want to add?
No, honestly, I think at the end of the day, it's just kind of nice to play something that it was a little out of my comfort zone. I generally have for me, the sweet spot when it comes to retro stuff is that PS2 generation. Just like that is, I'll generally accept all the hurdles and all the because stuff has aged very well in that generation. Some stuff has a little bit of a learning curve for it. So to go back to something that was in the 80s, it's a little daunting to me because I tend to not like something that's that old. Sometimes just the limitations just get to me, and I'm like, I really can't get into it, which is sad. But to actually play this game and be like, no, I generally like it, and I was able to get over the fact it's an 80s game, a late 80s game, just very easily, I think stands to its quality. So play this game if you are interested, because they're really good.
Awesome.
Okay, so that was Gumshoe's pick for this episode, which leaves me now to talk about my picks, or should I say my pick for this episode. And it's appropriate that let's see. It is now, as the time I'm recording this, both where I am and Dark's place, it is Saturday morning. However, in a couple hours, it's gonna be Friday night at Gumshoe's place. And guess what? What better day to talk about a game on Saturday and on Friday night? What better game to talk about on Friday night than a Yakuza game? And for this one, we're gonna talk about Yakuza 4. This game came out in 2010 for Japan on the PS3, 2010 and 2011 internationally on PS3. And let's see here. And it got remastered alongside 3 and 5 and released for the PlayStation 4 in 2019. And later for the Xbox on 2021. This is a bit of an interesting game. So the story is...
I think 4 is great, but do go on.
Yeah, so the story is set during the spring of 2010. The Tojo clan is at a brink of a war with another clan, and it's up to Kazuma Kiryu and 3 other different characters, each with their own reasons, to prevent this war from happening and save the clan from destruction, in a series of events that involves betrayal, loyalty, police corruption, and long, dark, buried secrets being uncovered. So, the story, while having strong moments and some excellent characters, does have some issues. With too many betrayals, too many villains, some story threads that get tangled and complicated near the end, and some absurd twists that became a bit of a meme among the fans of the series. Nonetheless, despite its issues, Yakuza 4's story is still a blast to go through, that ends with a cool finale featuring all 4 playable characters kicking ass.
4 is when I consider the games to start taking themselves less and less seriously, to start embracing that kind of craziness. I think, because really, if you look at like Yakuza 3, there's not really much of that game I could say is like super crazy. It's still relatively down to earth Yakuza stuff. But you know, the stuff that makes Yakuza, the kind of out there stuff, the disco, you know, the things like that aren't the crazy moments, stuff like that, where it just goes full on anime. I feel like 4 is the beginnings of that for sure. 4 is just when they start to embrace that side, and even more so later on for the series, because keep in mind, because you started with like 0,
Yes.
so which was made after the 5th game.
Yes.
So
yes.
By then they kind of knew that, like, oh, okay, we are gonna embrace this, so they already had that. So to go backwards, technically speaking, it's a little different in that sense.
Yeah. Definitely, I'd say the 4 is an improvement over 3 in many aspects. So the game's story is split into 4 parts, each part containing 4 chapters, with the finale containing a single chapter, making a total of 17 playable chapters. But like with the Yakuza 3, some chapters can end really quick before you know it, especially with Kiryu. And like I mentioned, in this game, you play not 1, not 2, but 4 different playable characters, each with their own backstories and struggles. You start the game with the newcomer Shun Akiyama, a moneylender with a heart of gold, and then you switch to Taiga Saijima, an escaped convict on death row, and Goro Majima's sworn brother. Then you switch to Masayoshi Tanimura, a young detective with a strong sense of justice. And then finally, you get to Kazuma Kiryu, the legendary dragon of Dojima and former chairman of the Tojo clan. And I'd say when it comes to story, the most the characters that get most involved in the story, I'd say they're Saijima and Tanimura. These are the characters that get most twists and character development, character and reveals that we see a lot during these 2 characters' chapters. And I'd say also to an extent also Kiryu, because Kiryu doesn't appear until like the much later in the game. Like
It's literally the last 4th.
Yeah.
Maybe even less than that. And that is, and depending on how much you like Kiryu, that could either be a good thing or a bad thing.
Honestly, I love Kiryu, but I'm glad that they saved him for last. Because
see, yeah, that's exactly what I thought is like. After playing 3, I'm kind of like, you know what? Maybe I don't need Kiryu all the time.
Yeah.
I can work with other protagonists, sure.
As long as the other protagonists are, likable or enjoyable to see their stories, and I'd say the new characters are enjoyable. Shun Akiyama is probably one of my favorite newcomers.
Oh, he is my favorite.
He's
my favorite.
Yeah, he's the coolest of the bunch. Even though story-wise, he's involved with the main story, with the plot.
He gets things in motion, I will say, but after that, everybody else has way more personal stake to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially Saejima and Tanimura. With Saejima, really has a pretty lot of stuff he goes through during this game, and his story and backstory kind of resembles Kiryu's story in the Yakuza 1. You know, he gets he's thrown in jail for many years. He finally gets out, well, or in his case, escaped. And he sees many people in his life either dead or long gone, lost, stuff like that. So his struggles and stuff like that kind of resembles Kiryu's story in the Yakuza 1, or Kiwami if you played the remake. Yeah, and there's also Tanimura, who's a cop who was a detective, who also gets many character moments, cool character moments, especially during the finale. While I'd say I'd like to say he's my least favorite, but there's also a lot of good moments with him.
I think he's just the one that it takes a bit longer to get to those really good moments, but it is worth it.
Yeah. And then there's Kiryu. Kiryu is he's involved with the story and stuff like that. But like I said, he only comes like the last fourth of the game. But when he finally comes in, he really kicks ass and stuff like that, and helps the other characters, especially Saejima.
Yeah, he starts the game out with like basically almost all of the moveset that you had.
Yes. He starts with a higher level than the other characters.
Mm-hmm.
With almost all the movesets from the previous games. He also gets some new moves that are cool and stuff like that. So I'd say his gameplay is a little improvement over his gameplay style from 3. So each character has their own unique fighting style. Akiyama is all about fast, swift kicks. Saejima is more about hard hitting, heavy punches and kicks with some wrestling moves, and also has the shortest heat action bar. And honestly, I expected his style to be a little more, I expected, you know, since he's the big guy in the 4 characters, among the 4 characters, I expected his style to be like the Beast, Kiryu's Beast style from 0 and Kiwami and 1, but Kiwami, but no, his style is nothing like that. Let's see, who else is there? Okay, yeah. Tanimura, yeah, and Tanimura is okay. Tanimura is all focuses on parries and grabs, and Kiryu has his signature dragon style, like I said, with some new added moves that you unlock. I don't know about you, Gumshoe. Which one of these is your favorite for fighting? Which one of these has?
I actually like
the fighting.
Chin's fighting style the most. I just love that if you get a character like right, you can just do so many hits and get so many hits in that it's a lot of fun. Especially what they the problem is that end game Chin isn't as fun as early game. But I do think my second favorite is probably Saejima. Just because while you have a very low heat bar, you can use heat actions mid combo, and he has access to bigger weapons that shouldn't probably be like weapons you can just grab, but you can with him because he's just that freaking strong.
Yes.
And that's just a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun, and you could easily just like overpower so many opponents if you know what you're doing. You kind of have to know what you're doing.
Yeah, personally, my favorite styles are Akiyama style, followed by Kiryu, and then after that Tanimura. Tanimura style with parries and grabs, it's actually not bad. It starts, especially after you level him up and upgrade his moves and stuff, moveset and stuff like that. With Saejima being my least favorite, because his heat actions are very situational. There's like one where you have to bounce a character to the ground or bounce him to the wall, and you don't get to do that often. And there's
certain combos that will allow you to do that, but
yeah,
it is you are kind of playing a little bit more of a waiting game with them than most characters if you really want to set up for stuff.
Yeah, Saejima. So yeah, Saejima, especially when you start playing as him, without upgrading his moveset or stuff like that, he's really my least favorite. And
he's a character you need to upgrade immediately. Like you need to upgrade those points and put them in things that you want more so than the others.
Absolutely.
That's why I feel like a fully leveled up version of him though kicks ass. But when you start out with him, I actually think that's like easily one of the hardest parts of the game. His like first boss.
Yeah, the prison guard. Yeah, the prison guard kicked my ass. Like I got 2 game overs.
Crap.
Yeah, he kicked.
I was like, maybe it shouldn't be that hard. I don't know. I feel like that and the final bosses fight, like the final fight of the final boss, I think are the 2 hardest fights in that game in Yakuza 4, like for sure. Well, outside of true hidden final boss.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Amons. Yeah, we'll talk about them later. Yeah, we'll talk about them later, and then while we're talking about this game. So yeah, let's see. So this game has there are 62 sub stories, probably the least I've played so far, with each character having somewhere between 50 to 60 sub stories to complete. With each telling stories with some of the characters. With each character has their own side activities to complete. But let's talk a little bit about the sub stories. So yeah, some of them are unique, like the one with the Kiryu and the lost baby, and stuff like that. But I think though the most interesting sub stories among the 4 characters are the one with both Saejima and Tanimura. Especially with Tanimura, since in these series of sub stories, he gets to learn about his late father and stuff like that. You learn a little bit more about his backstory. And it also has a strong transgender character in it that kicks ass. And yeah, they're really fun. It's interesting sub stories. With Saejima, there's this little kid owes a lot of money to a group of moneylenders, and who's also looking for his sister and stuff like that. But his struggles kind of reminds Saejima of his lost sister, and it's really a little emotional. So I think these 2 characters that gets the most interesting sub stories compared to the other 2.
I definitely agree with that for sure. I kind of wish Kiryu's was a little better. I really would do, because I really didn't feel like doing the gang stuff, the gang fights.
I finished. I finished it personally. We'll get to these side activities when we get there in a moment.
But yeah, no, I kind of feel like they were lacking for his sub stories a bit, which I guess that just makes sense because it's like the last part. But I don't remember much of his sub stories. Now that I think about it.
Yeah.
But
aside from like
one. 3 characters or what?
Yeah, they're a lot memorable. Akiyama has a little funny ones, especially with his assistant and stuff like that.
Yeah, Akiyama has, I think, the best comedy ones for sure. There's just anything that has to do with them, like, oh, we need to come, I need money for something. Those tend to be very, very, very good.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I'll definitely say. Honestly, I'm glad you like him a lot because I think you will just love 5 when you get to that.
Yeah, because
I honestly genuinely think.
Yeah, I'm aware he's in 5. Yeah, and I'm glad they bring him back. Same with Saejima.
They don't bring back the other dude, and
yeah,
I don't know if you know why.
No, I know. Something about his real actor.
The original
actor.
original actor.
Because in the remaster, they changed his voice and character face model. Because the original Tanimura was voiced by a real Japanese actor who got accused of drug possession. And it turns out these accusations were false, but unfortunately it was too late by the time he proved his innocence. It ruined his career and he ended up retiring. But that happened.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know they were false. Damn.
Yeah.
Wow, it's even worse.
It sucks. But and that happened before even they released the remasters.
Yeah, that's why he's not in 5, and there's a new protagonist in 5.
Maybe.
But yeah, no, I'm honestly glad that you enjoyed 4 because I remember it being one of the ones that people are more mixed on, which is interesting. Like that, and it's either like people are mixed on 4 or people are mixed on 5. That seems to be the standard. But honestly, I think that from the remastered trilogy, the level of quality just always goes up. And I think it is very evident from 3 to 4. It's kind of like you play 3 and you go to 4 and it's like they listen to all your complaints about 3.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't played Yakuza 4 personally, so I can unfortunately not say my words on it. But hey, I'm interested in giving it a try whenever I get the chance, and after I've played Yakuza 3, which is after when I get to playing Yakuza Kiwami 1 and 2.
Oh, be warned. Yakuza 3, you're gonna get a little bit of a whiplash when it comes to quality and stuff, and movement and stuff like that. You're gonna feel.
Honestly,
I've heard
don't even
that.
bother. It's not worth it. It's not worth it doing everything in that game. In 3.
I agree. Honestly, when it comes to Yakuza 3, I'd say just watch a story summary of the story. That's about it.
Yeah, if you really can.
Yeah.
Bother, which is totally fine. Which is why it's just what.
Hello? Your voice is cutting out.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it comes to 3, yeah, it's I'd say it's only recommended for hardcore fans or the curious. But other than that, yeah, I'd say it's somewhat skippable. So let's get back to Yakuza 4, because that's the game we're talking about. So like I said, each character has their own sub-stories and also their side activities. Let's see. So Akiyama has Hostess Maker, which is returning from Yakuza 3. However, I feel like it's a little improved. Yes, it's a little grindy and takes some time, but not as frustrating as I feel like it's not as frustrating to play as the Hostess Maker in 3. Because in 3 I barely bothered. With 4 I feel a little more invested. And I managed to complete it. Because because in the Hostess Maker you get to train 3 hostesses. Each one has to level up until they make it to number 1. And when they become number 1, they become dateable for all the other characters. We'll get to that in a moment. So let's see. There's for Akiyama for the side activities. He has hostess maker, which we mentioned, and Saiko's training, a military type dude who gives advice and stuff like that. And when he completes his training, he lets Akiyama gets new moves and stuff like that. Yeah. So that's for the side activities for Akiyama. Saejima has what is called Fighter Maker and Master's Training. For Master's Training, you just help an old guy dig a hole under Kamurocho. But that's about it. You get new moves and stuff like that, but they're not that interesting. You just kick rocks and stuff like that, and whatever. But there's also his other side activity, Fighter Maker, in which you help a dojo train a few of the you help an owner of a dojo train his students, and when they become champions, you can use them as partners in the Colosseum, which is also returning from the previous games. Personally, you get to train up to 5 students, but honestly, I never bothered training all 5. I trained 3 and then I stopped. You only get a trophy for making one of them a champion, but that's about it. There's no real reward. There's nothing that incentive you to, nothing that makes you want to go all the way and do it. Just aside from like a bonus from that clown guy, but that's about it. So that's for Saejima's side activities. For Tanimura, he has a character called Nair, a detective from the Philippines who's chasing after a wanted criminal. You also do some training with her, and she also parries a lot like Tanimura. And if you don't know what you're doing, she'll kick your ass a lot. She also has her own story about, like I said, chasing a wanted criminal from the Philippines and stuff like that. But that's about it. It's like I said with the previous characters, she's basically a glorified training to get more characters, to get more new moves and hit actions, and upgrade your abilities. So that's for Tanimura. For Kiryu, he has...
No, you're also forgetting about Tanimura's other thing, which is an ongoing, but the police scanner.
Oh yeah, the police scanner missions. Yeah, he also he has a radio on him because he's a cop. So every once in a while he get a police report about a crime happening around Kamurocho, and when you complete one of them, you get a reward for completing them in form of money, because Tanimura in the game is established as being a little corrupt, a bit of a corrupt cop. His heart is in the right place, but he's not the most ideal policeman out there. It is also established.
Yeah, it's very gray. He's probably like the most gray character actually out of like all of them, which is like very interesting. But like ultimately he's still a protagonist and still a good guy. It's just like, yeah, the memes. One of those interesting things.
Yeah. And they also established it's minor story related, but they also established the fact that he talks multiple Asian languages, which is why there's a section in Kamurocho called Little Asia, where you can't access it unless you get to Tanimura, because the resident.
Yeah, actually, that is something that I like about 4. You are in Kamurocho, and for the entire thing, but one of the first 3 characters has their own section of it that they can go to that the other characters can't, except for Kiryu, because he's lived in it. He's the character that's been there the most, we could say. Same with Shin too. He's been around, which is why you can just kind of freely walk to areas, but you can't go into into Little Asia.
Yes.
And that's, but it's kind of like you, from every single protagonist, you get a sense of their perspective and not just story, but also gameplay.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, like I said, we mentioned every character's side activities, and like you said before, Kiryu only has gag encounters, which is probably the least interesting aspect of this, the least series of side activities in the entire game. I mean, it's a little more fun than the assassination assassin missions in 3, but that's about it.
I totally forgot the assassination missions. Forgot that was a thing. Oh
I-
my God.
Yeah, I've beaten it just to get the trophy for it, but other than that, yeah, it's
You're
more.
way more dedicated than I am, man.
Yeah. And despite this, I never bothered getting everything in 3. It's the only game that I didn't do that. Unlike 4, which I actually managed to do everything. Almost everything. So like I mentioned, hostess dating is back. That's a thing that's been it's been canonically and we're talking about release dates. The first game that establishes host dating is 3, and it's back here in 4. But you feel like when you interact with the hostesses, the affection meter goes a little higher when you answer something, say something positive to the hostesses. So with the exception of Saejima, every other character can date multiple hostesses. Although it seems that somewhat, like I said, it's somewhat improved from 3. I actually, unlike 3, I actually managed to date all of them with the 3 characters, and I managed to maximize all their affection meter and unlock the sub stories. So I don't know if it's like I said, if they improved it, or it's the fact that they separated the hostesses by letting each character have their own set of hostesses, so they make it a little more a little more, tolerable, I guess. But I managed to do it in 4, unlike 3. I couldn't do it in 3. But yeah, it's I only played them just to unlock their sub stories. But yeah, I think that's about it when it comes to side activities. So like you've mentioned briefly there, Gumshoe, Kamurocho is the only location in this game they explore and stuff like that. There's no Okinawa, no Sotombori or something like that. But despite this, Kamurocho got massively expanded from compared to the other games. There's rooftops, underground parking lots, abandoned underground shopping malls, sewers. There's a lot of areas to explore in this game compared to the previous one. And some of them can only be accessed for a little while by certain characters. Like for example, Little Asia, this area can only be accessible until you get to Tanimura, and after that you can access it as Kiryu. There's also the sewers, which can only access it through manholes that only Saejima can open these manholes. Well, at least until Kiryu comes get to Kiryu, because he later gets an item that lets him a key of some sort that lets him open these manholes. So this game. So let's talk about gameplay for a little bit. If you play the Yakuza game, you know how it goes, especially with the Kiryu saga. It's an action adventure game with the 3D beat 'em up brawler. And each character, and when it comes to upgrading a certain character, each character level up by filling up their experience gauge. Each time they level up, they gain what is called soul orbs. Soul orbs are used to unlock extra moves and heat actions. But that's about it. When it comes to stamina and heat gauge, these two gets automatically upgraded each time you level up, so you don't have to waste any experience points and stuff like that for expanding and stuff like that. The moment you level up, they get expanded. That's about it. So each character's levels are capped at 20. You start at 1 until you get to 20. 20 is the maximum. All of them except Kiryu start at 1. Kiryu I think start like 5 or 10 or stuff like that, and he has most of his moveset from the previous game unlocked. And yeah, I managed to get all of them to level 20 because there's a trophy you get for getting all of them to level 20. So
Yeah, I think that just generally speaking, the gameplay is such a step up from 3. Enemies no longer do impossible to break blocks.
yes, this is they fixed.
Thank God.
Yeah, they fixed that from 3. From what I experienced, in normal mode, these characters, especially bosses, block like hell. There's no way. So I had to play the rest of the game on easy for Yakuza 3. Not the case in Yakuza 4. In Yakuza 4, I managed to play this game normal, and aside from like a couple bosses, like the prison guard with Saejima, none of them was impossible to beat. So yeah, this game was a little easier experience. And like we said before, overall Yakuza 4 is an improvement in almost every aspect when it comes to gameplay and story and stuff like that. I even, like I said, unlike 3, I managed to complete all the sub-stories in this game. And like with the previous games, when you unlock every sub-story, you get to unlock a final sub-story, a secret one, where you meet this super hard, this secret boss character called Joe Amon. He's in every Yakuza game, and like I said, he only appears when you complete every sub-story. So for this one, Yakuza 4, like I said, in 3 I never get to him because I never bothered completing all the sub-stories in 3. But for 4 I managed to get to him, and because you have 3 other characters with you, you don't get to fight Joe Amon alone. You also get to fight his brothers as well. Each character fights a certain brother, with probably the hardest one, the one that Saejima faces. Because I think his name is Jiro Amon. This guy has an exploding hammer. That if he hits you with that hammer, you lose a lot of your life. So he's easily the hardest one of the Amons, even harder than Joe. And Joe has like 2 meters, 2 health bars. Once you finish the first one, he immediately gets up and started facing with another health bar. Also, during his second phase, when you face him, he can do style switching, just like with Kiryu and Majima from Yakuza 0, which is something you don't do in 4, which is a little bullshit. But hey, this game was made before 0 and Kiwami, so
Yeah, Zero's still the only one that actually has any style switching, which is interesting. Well, actually, I say that, but they actually brought that back for Judgment.
yes, that's what I've heard.
So-
Judgment and Lost Judgment has the style switching, from what I've heard.
Judgment is basically like Yakuza 0 on steroids. A lot of the time, especially Lost Judgment, where you get a third style in that one to switch to, which is more focused on grabs and everything, and kind of like outmaneuvering opponents and better for crowds and some stuff like that. And then also there's a DLC one that's Boxer, that is just like an extra style, and you can switch to them on the fly. There's not even like any real cooldown for switching styles. There's even certain like moves you can do that will switch your style for you.
Ah.
In Lost Judgment, yeah, yo, it's insane. It's so insane.
Cool.
But anyway, Yakuza 4, I kind of wish I did like do all the side stuff, because the only thing I didn't do or didn't complete was Kiryu's gang battles. I just wanted to beat the game. I was like, I kind of just want to see what the ending's like. But I'll probably go back to it.
Have you
like I did with Kiwami 1.
Have you completed all the sub stories or no?
I did.
Ah, okay.
Except for at least unless there's one that you get after completing Kiryu's backstory stuff. Or not backstory, his gang. I think I do have to beat that.
I believe no, you don't get anything out of it. I believe that.
Oh, okay. So yeah, no, I still. But again, I haven't actually beat the Amons yet, and I think there's like a few sub stories actually. Now I think about it, I might not have done in 4, but I can just easily just go back to it and finish it.
Yeah, as far as I know, when it comes to side activities that are important, I'd say the only ones that really that's really important is the hostess maker, because like I said, you unlock 3 different hostesses that once you complete their affection meter, you unlock their sub stories. But yeah, that's about it. The fighter maker, the detective in the Philippines.
I had a lot of fun with the fighter maker. In fact, when I played through the game, I basically put the main story on hold and I did all the fighter maker stuff immediately.
Oh yeah, fighter maker is a little fun. I'd say even more fun than the hostess maker. But like I said, I managed to complete hostess maker, but by the time I got to fighter maker, I was a little burnt out. And like I said, there was
oh for sure, I would imagine.
Yeah, aside from
I don't want to do this now.
Like I said, I only got 3 characters to become champions, and the 4th one is a bit of a prick, who will barely train when you make a schedule for him. So yeah, after that I just gave up. Since there's no sub story to unlock or stuff like that for when you complete it, so I said fuck it, just gonna ignore it. So yeah, like I said, Yakuza 4 is a good time. Definitely recommend it after playing the Kiwami games. Like I said, this story has issues, but that's not to say it has issues, like I said, but it's a good time. You're gonna enjoy it. Not like it's not as enjoyable like Zero or Kiwami 2, but it's still good. I'd say it's recommended after playing Kiwami 2. Like watch like I said before, watch. I only recommend 3 for those who are really curious. But other than that, I'd say skip it and watch the story summary. Because aside from the dead Kiryu moments, the main story is not that interesting really compared to 4. So yeah, like I said, it's I recommend 4. It's a good time. You're gonna enjoy it.
Awesome.
Since I'm done with Yakuza 4, I'm probably I've been doing this tradition of only playing 2 Yakuza games a year and taking a few months break between them. So currently I'm playing some Kirby games, and maybe I'm gonna play some platformers, maybe return to Doom after this. But the next game I'm gonna play, the next Yakuza game I'm gonna play, maybe it's gonna be 5, but I'm seriously considering getting into Yakuza Dead Souls.
Yakuza Dead Souls.
Oh yeah, I still have not played any of those spin-off side games.
Yeah, I owned the PS3 version of this game.
I think it's only on the PS3, so
it's the only one that never got remastered, aside from Kenzen and Ishin.
Oh, we're still waiting for those to even come over here outside Japan.
I don't know about Ishin and Kenzen, but Dead Souls almost killed the series in the West. It didn't sell well.
Yes.
And it had a and it had a bit of a performance issues on the PS3, some frame rates and stuff like that. But since I'm a
Dead Souls, I believe, was the reason why the West didn't get 5, because that underperformed in the West. When it was a little bit more marketed towards them too. So for that to happen was like, oh, maybe we shouldn't release our next one. over there.
It took
Not so well.
it took them until 2007 with the Yakuza 0 that the series got revived. I mean, they released 5 on 3, but only digitally after in a few years, and it barely and that's about it. It never got remastered or released physically until the remastered collection in 2019. But yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
yeah, and Yakuza. It was not until Yakuza 0 that saved the series in 2017 when they marketed it and stuff like that. So yeah.
I can't wait for you to play that 5, but I totally understand if you need a break. So from the Yakuza stuff, 5 can be pretty long. I'm gonna be right out there. Yakuza 5 can be a pretty dense game.
Yeah, I've heard of that. So maybe I'll play Dead Souls sometime this year, perhaps on October, because you know it's Halloween and stuff like that, and zombies. Maybe I'll consider it, and maybe I'll talk about it in the show. Who knows? But if I don't end up playing Dead Souls for some reason, I might skip to 5. And honestly, considering that 5 is like you said, it's a completely incredibly dense game, I might save it for next year. But we'll see.
It's super great, but you are technically controlling 5 different protagonists.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
So, and each one has, not each one, but yeah, it's just like 4, where they all have their own special separate thing to do. And it's a lot, and you're either gonna love that or you're gonna hate that. I loved it. I loved the variety so much. I thought the variety was like super great, and I loved the way the plot goes, even if it was a little slow at points. But trust me, I do think you're gonna like 5. But it is dense. So like, if you want to say it for next year, then like go ahead, because boy.
Yeah, because 4 took me like a month and a half to beat.
Oh, 5 could probably take you like 3 months.
Oof. I think the longest Yakuza game that took me.
Not even like that long. It's just the amount of extra stuff you can do.
I know. Yeah, and I'm the guy. And when it comes to Yakuza, I love doing this side stuff. Because the longest game that took me from the Yakuza games to beat was Yakuza 0.
It's definitely not 0 length. It's not 0 length. It's not that length, but.
Oh, okay. So 5 is not as long as 0.
It was definitely not as long as 0. No, but there is a lot to do, but it's not like that dense. But it is definitely like more stuff than any of the other games. I would say it's about maybe the same amount as like Kiwami 2. Yeah. In terms of 100%ing it and everything.
I see.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, like a good amount, like for sure, and will take you more time than the other games. But it's also just dense because there's just a lot more mini games and such to do. So.
Yeah, we'll see when we get there. In case we decided to do a Halloween edition or stuff like that of this show, I might, like I said, I might play Dead Souls. Maybe invite you to share my thoughts about it with you, even though you've never played it. But we'll see. Because Dead Souls also has characters from Yakuza 4 like Akiyama and his assistant, and it also is canonically the first game that has Majima as a playable character. But we'll get to that bridge when we reach it there. So I guess that's about it for my thoughts on Yakuza 4, the game I picked for this episode. And I think that's about it for this episode. We have plenty to talk about. Thank you so much, both of you, Gumshoe and Dark, for making it for this episode, joining me and sharing our thoughts about the Nintendo Direct and stuff like that. And
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, same here, man.
yeah, we had a lot of fun talking about stuff like that. So I guess that's about it for this edition of Backlog Banter. And yeah, until next time, this is Serial K and his guests signing off. Take care. Bye.